Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of miraculous things with microphones because I am a ring announcer and MMA cage announcer. And I am joined this week for this week's episode by my two friends who both bring MMA punditry to new heights, dare I say. Introducing first, from New York, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? And what's up to all our new subscribers and listeners? What a week we just had on YouTube. Thank you so much to all our listeners, new and old. We are ready to hit you guys with more great MMA content. There is a ton to talk about this week, and I'm ready to get into it.
Very nice, very nice. And introducing next, joining us from Florida, the Sunshine State, the Nicaraguan nightmare, Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? My parents came down to visit. In-laws finally met, so I've been pretty busy with the entertaining stuff.
Finally met? They didn't meet before you got married?
Yeah, after marriage. Wow.
God
No,
damn.
dude, when I got engaged and married pretty quick. I was not in the business of waiting or anything like that. I got
good for you.
engaged July 2020, and I got married October 2020.
There you
So
go.
I was like, I'm not waiting for this pandemic to be over. Who the hell knows when that's going to be? I was like, I want to get married, kid. That's it. So we'll have a party later, but a lot of things happened really quick, and our in-laws had never really met. Thank God for Facebook, so they kind of knew each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Did they get along?
I was just going to ask that.
Oh, they did.
Did they get along?
Okay.
They did. They very much did. Yeah, it was nice. It was like a whole family Easter get-together kind of deal. They had pool in the back, and it was great.
Sweet.
We had a good time.
That's awesome.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, I have had a uneventful weekend for the first time in quite some time, but I got quite a few events coming up for myself in May. But tonight, gentlemen, I am getting drunk off wine because I am drunk off power of the week we just had in terms of viewership for the show. Things are looking up, boys. Things are looking up. And if you are joining us for the first time, thank you so much. Let me run through this episode real quick. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd like to start with a segment called On the McKee, where we highlight pretty much the biggest fight from whatever this past weekend fights that we are recapping. For this episode, we are going to continue to recap fights from last weekend from both Bellator and UFC Fight Nights, Luque versus Muhammad 2. We're going to do some of them in our lightning round, which I love, by the way. We're going to find out who rose and who fell in our very own ranking system, the Priaulx Rankings. We're going to find out what's new in the MMA headlines with Inside the MMA Sphere. And then we're going to look ahead to the future, to this coming weekend, previewing both Bellator and UFC fights for you guys, and then we're going to end the episode with a little bit of trivia as we are accustomed to do. That being said, if you're joining us for the first time, like I said, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and better yet, share this video with somebody who you know who might love MMA and doesn't yet know about our show. Nothing would help us out more than that. If you want us audio only, we got you. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, join the conversation on social media. Find us at @&new_MMA show in all the places. Gentlemen, let us get into this. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Patricio Pitbull Ferreira, who last Friday, April 15th, at Bellator 277 at the SAP Center in San Jose, California, defeated AJ McKee in the rematch by unanimous decision. In doing so, regaining the Bellator Featherweight Championship, snatching it back from AJ McKee. Remember, the duo previously fought in the main event of Bellator 263 back in July of last year, where McKee took Pitbull's title. He snatched it from him in the Bellator Featherweight World Grand Prix Final. It's a very long thing to say, by submission via guillotine choke in the very first round. But this time, the score is read at the end of 5 rounds, 49-46, 48-47, and 48-47, all in favor of the man named Pitbull. Let's get into this fight, guys. Mark, let me start with you. Take us through the fight, how you saw it in your eyes, and your reaction to Pitbull regaining his Bellator featherweight crown.
Well, we did not see ourselves sitting here tonight talking about how much AJ McKee blew it, did we? That was bad. Now, I will say right out of the gate that AJ McKee may have been the rightful winner of that fight. When I watched it live, I had it 3-2 for Pitbull. I knew it was crazy close the whole time. I was like, man, he could be winning, but I kind of think Pitbull's winning. When I rewatched it, I actually had it 4-1 for McKee.
Wow.
But that's how close those first 4 rounds were. 5th round was certainly McKee. But the first 4 could have all gone either way, and I really did want to watch it a third time. Usually I do a minimum 3 in a close fight like that, so I can really give you guys a strong take. As you know, I always have strong takes on how these rounds should be scored, but unfortunately this week kind of got away from me, so I have only done the 2. So yes, on the rewatch I had it 4-1 McKee, but I still felt like they were razor close as I was scoring it. So for all I know, if I scored it again, something could have gone the other way. I don't know. But the main story is, scoring aside, AJ did not do enough to clearly win that fight, in my opinion. And he can't cry foul about that decision not going his way. We've talked about this before on this show, but that was a little bit of this, like, I'm the champion syndrome that's been going on in MMA lately. He didn't quite go in there and spar like we said Izzy has done at times. It was more than that, but I 100% believe that if he was the challenger, he would have pushed that fight a lot more than he pushed it. He went in, he tried to do enough to walk out of there with the title, and the judges didn't let him do it. And frankly, Pitbull didn't do anything mind-blowing. Like, I give credit to Pitbull, of course. The fact that this guy is champ again, that he's 6-0 in rematches is just unbelievable. What a legacy he has built in Bellator. But the only thing Pitbull really did different was go in there and say, okay, I'm not going to go after him. I'll stand here in the middle, and I'll make him come to me, and I'll try to make him pay. And that's Pitbull, man. That's kind of who he's always been. So was AJ McKee not ready for that? Like, I don't know. As you can tell, I'm very disappointed by AJ McKee's performance. I know, as I've said, there's an argument that the belt should still be around his waist. But even if it was, I'd still be disappointed. He has so much talent. It's so evident. And for him to talk all week about being the best 145er in the world and how Volk doesn't impress him and he beat all these guys, and then to come out with OT Genesis, throwing money in the air and go in there and put on that type of performance is just a really tough pill to swallow. And then after his first career loss, the guy who said all week that he's the best 145er in the world is at the post-fight presser saying he can't fight at 145 anymore because it's too hard and he has to go up to 155. So, I don't know. It's just not the greatest look altogether for AJ McKee coming out of this one. And I know I'm talking about AJ McKee a lot and not the guy who just became champ again in Patricio Pitbull, but I think that AJ McKee lost that belt more than Pitbull won it, and that's kind of the story for me here.
Omar, let me bring you in here. What was your reaction to the fight? Hearing Mark's reaction to the scoring, let me ask you, how did you have that fight? Do you think that Pitbull was the rightful winner? And what was your overall reaction to the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, the fight is super close. I don't think it would be a hill that I would die on. I did have it AJ McKee winning. I had it 3-2. But again, those rounds were very, very close. I think one of the main reasons I think I had AJ winning was, at least on points. There is a point to be made that I didn't feel like when the fight ended. First of all, when the fight ended, the fight didn't even feel like it was over. That's number one. So to me, it was very difficult to pick a fighter or a winner in a fight that didn't feel like it was over. The second problem is AJ was countering a lot. So there was a lot of Pitbull hitting him, AJ returning, which is a good thing. You don't see a lot of guys necessarily do that. You see a lot of guys end up getting teed off. You know, they'll get hit, they'll shell up, they'll move back, they'll create distance. AJ was very much, he hits me, I return back. There were certain times where he was able to kind of get the edge in the striking, but then kind of retreat and Pitbull will get the edge in the striking. Those rounds were super, super close and very back and forth almost the entire time they were in that fight. The third round when he grabbed AJ's neck and almost had him in a guillotine, there were those moments that I think were bigger from Pitbull overall than there were for AJ. But it's a fight that I hope they do at 155 because it just doesn't feel over. And to Mark's credit, there was a lot of shit talking coming from AJ. And I can tell you right now, based off of that performance last night, if Volk went up to 155 to fight AJ, I think Volk would kill him. Just off of that last performance. Just based off of that last performance, yeah. The way the championship syndrome is, as Mark kind of put it, where guys feel like they have to have the belt taken from them as opposed to them actually having to defend that belt and fight when they're in there, almost like if they were a challenger. That's something that Volk has never had a problem doing. Volk goes in there and just wrecks people. If you're in his way, you're getting wrecked. And that just didn't seem to be the case once AJ McKee had the belt, which is a little disappointing. I don't know if the weight cut was that significant where, it took something out of him, because there did seem like there was a step missing from AJ that night. I don't want to take anything away from Patricio because, he did work and he didn't get steamrolled this time. And, he was patient. He did pick his shots, but at the same time, I do wonder if the fight would be different in 155, if we see a better AJ McKee at 155, when he's not draining himself. Just a weird night overall, though. It just wasn't what I expected to go down that night.
Sometimes there are certain Bellator champs who I wonder, maybe this guy is actually the best X-pounder in the world. In this case, especially given AJ McKee's performance from this past weekend, I am very confident in saying that the UFC's current featherweight champion, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, is the very best fighter on the planet in a cage at 145 pounds. There's no doubt in my mind, especially because Volkanovski himself just recently fought and looked absolutely untouchable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark, you were going to say something?
I was just, first of all, I agree with that take. I've always been of the camp where I just love AJ McKee's talent, and it seemed like he had the mindset to go with it. Not to the point, as I've said on him before, that I was ready to necessarily pick him over a Holloway or a Volk. I might have picked him over the others, but that I would have loved to see that matchup. And now, coming out of this week, I'm kind of like, obviously he's still good, and if they ran that back, maybe he looks way better. But I put him on the second level at this point until he shows us otherwise. But the point that I was going to make was that I really don't think the weight cut was the issue. I think that he thought he was doing enough. He's going back to the corner every time. His dad is saying, "You won that round. We're up 2 rounds now. We're up 3 rounds now." Every round he's telling me, "Won the round." And I think that there was absolutely another gear he could have kicked into if he felt like he needed to, but he was over there thinking, "No, I'm doing enough. I'm defending this belt, and I'm going to be fine here. I don't need to risk it." Whereas that's what I meant earlier. If he was the challenger, I don't think he fights that way. No matter how much people are saying, "Oh no, you're winning the rounds. They're good rounds." I think he's like, "Fuck that. I got to go for it." And that's what some of these guys forget when they become champ. And it seemed like that's what happened to him.
Okay, Omar, going back to you, putting on your Bellator executive hat here, where do we go from here at featherweight at the very top with the title? Do you run it back for a trilogy fight with these two guys? Do you try to beg and plead and convince AJ McKee to stay at 145 for a trilogy? Do you try to convince Pitbull to take a trilogy fight at 155? What do you think?
Well, so after the fight, AJ has already kind of been talking about how he's not doing 145 anymore. So if we take him at his word, then I don't think 145 is going to happen. There are fights at lightweight that I guess are intriguing, especially his size. He's huge for 145, man. Like, I can only imagine what that weight cut is actually like. He's probably killing himself to get there. So I guess the question is, do they run it back? Do you give him an immediate title shot off of a loss against his brother? I would like to see the rematch at 155. Like I said, I didn't even feel like that second fight. I felt like the first fight was more finished than the second fight was. Obviously, there was a finish in the first fight. But my point is, even in certain decisions, you kind of feel like there's something that's been resolved and a question has been answered.
You're talking about decisions where the guys feel like they both left it out there, which is not what we got in that fight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of. I feel like we left there with more questions than we did answers.
Yep.
So in that sense, I would like the rematch. But at the same time, there are interesting fights that are at the top of lightweight. You know, Benson Henderson, Brent Primus, Sidney Outlaw, and then you got Patricio, the brother who he's been talking shit about just as long as he's been talking about Patricio. So there's definitely things to make up there. I'm down for whatever, but it's hard to ignore the bad blood and sort of the rivalry of the Pitbull brothers and AJ McKee to not want to kind of placate off of that.
Yeah. Mark, what do you think? Where do you go from here if you are an executive at Bellator?
I would hope it's a trilogy. Nothing beats a trilogy in MMA. If there's a way to get AJ to do one more at 145 and say to him that he's allowed to vacate that belt and go right into a 155 title shot, or even to say to him, listen, if you win, you can hold this belt and go into a 155 title shot and try to be a 2-division champion. Not many guys have had that on their resume. Maybe there's a way that you can appeal to him and get him to do one more at 145. Obviously, he's saying he won't. As Omar said, Pitbull is saying he won't do it at 155, rightfully so, considering it's a featherweight belt. If they did it at 155, I guess it would just be a non-title fight, but it would be to settle the trilogy. Pitbull did mention that he would do it at 155 if AJ McKee was willing to put up his $1 million purse from the initial featherweight Grand Prix. I don't know if I see McKee doing that, but Omar kind of touched on it. I do think there's a potential avenue for AJ McKee if he's not going to do it at 145 and it has to be 155, where he can convince Pitbull, which is that the Bellator lightweight division is one that is kind of void of contenders. Like, yeah, Primus is there, Benson Henderson, Outlaw, Mamedov, but none of these guys are like the next guy. You know what I mean? And obviously, Pitbull's brother, Patricio Pitbull, sits on top of the division. And if I'm AJ and I'm trying to convince Patricio to take a fight with me, I think that's where I'm looking, because he might be able to step directly into a lightweight title shot against Patricio. Worst case, he would probably need one lightweight win, which he could get. And if he does that and he can beat Patricio, especially if he can finish him, Patricio may bite. If you remember, the one other time Patricio jumped up to lightweight, it was to fight Michael Chandler to avenge his brother's loss. And AJ absolutely knows how to talk shit. He knows how to ruffle feathers. So if we're not going to get an immediate trilogy, I think AJ beating Patricio and Patricio, I guess, presumably defending against maybe Adam Boric in the meantime, which would be a good fight, assuming they both won those fights. I think that could still get us there if AJ plays his cards right. Because if he took Patricio out, finished him, talked the right kind of shit along the way, I don't know. Patricio just strikes me as the guy who's going to be like, "Fuck this! I have to do this, for my family." He's always been that kind of guy, so I could see it happen that way.
Okay. Anything else you guys have to say about Pitbull regaining the featherweight crown here before we move on?
I just want to one more time give props to him. Again, we've spent so much of this talking about AJ McKee because he was kind of the story here, but what a hell of a career for Pitbull. He is one of the all-time great featherweights that we've ever seen. Not sure where he would fall exactly on that list, but he's certainly top 10. And amazing that he's the champ again.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, moving on down the line here at Bellator 277 from this past weekend. And what was the final of the Bellator Light Heavyweight World Grand Prix Tournament? Corey 25-8 Beaston Anderson took on the reigning champion Vadim Nemkov for the 205-pound title, as well as the $1 million prize. This fight was one of the more highly anticipated Bellator fights in recent memory. However, the fight ended in a no contest after an accidental clash of heads in the third round, resulting in a nasty cut over Nemkov's left eye, rendering him unable to continue. Nemkov, the 205-pound champ, retained his title as a result of a no contest. Both fighters visibly disappointed by the outcome when the decision was being read. Let us discuss. Omar, let me start with you first this time. What was your take on the fight overall, of Corey Anderson's performance? He seemed to be looking pretty good there, and of the outcome.
Yeah, I think last week when we were talking about it, I said I'd kind of been sold on the little Corey Anderson movement here. And I thought he was looking okay. The first round was definitely competitive, but I thought Corey Anderson was doing well. He's pushing the pace, winning a lot of the grappling exchanges. Whenever he was against the cage, he was able to get off of the cage, which against somebody like Nemkov is super important. I guess in the same respect, it's important to do it against Corey Anderson as well. But yeah, he looked good, man. As far as the headbutt is concerned and kind of how they dealt with all that stuff, I mean, what were you going to do? I mean, it literally just like ripped the kid's eye open. It was accidental on both sides. You know, it was in the middle of a movement while they were on the ground, both grappling. Kind of an unfortunate end, really lackluster considering that was like a big moment for Corey Anderson. You know, it looked like things were going to probably go in his direction. Who knows? But just a shitty way to end it. It's going to take a little bit of time, I'm assuming, for all that to heal up, for them to kind of reschedule and go back to it. So it's not the way you want something like that of that importance to end, but here we are.
Mark, let's bring you in here. What was your take on the overall fight, on the performance? This was supposed to be a big, big moment for Corey Anderson, for both of these fighters, and for Bellator, because this is one of their more marquee matchups in recent memory. What was your take?
Yeah, we nearly nailed this one outside of the brutal ending. Round one went exactly how I thought. Corey was trying to pressure, but he had to stay careful because of the variety of strikes that was coming at him from Nemkov. He was trying to use everything he had early, knees, kicks, punches, elbows. He was really, you know, throwing the whole arsenal at Corey early just to keep him off him. But by round two, Corey had kind of figured out how to get inside. He gets a great takedown. He makes Nemkov work the whole time. Transitions, advances, lands punches and elbows. And then in round three, now that Nemkov was so concerned about being taken down again since he wasn't able to get up, Corey starts to look better on the feet, and he actually gets Nemkov to duck at one point when he's advancing, gets another nasty takedown when Nemkov probably thought he was safe already because he had kind of escaped to the outside, and Corey just wouldn't let it go. And then it's more the same from round two. Nemkov gets up for maybe like 10 seconds, is immediately taken right back down. More of the same. Anderson drops a big elbow, loads up for another, and Nemkov naturally does not want another, and he tries to slide out of the way right as Corey is kind of lunging downward with his head. That's where Nemkov's head slides. And boom, clash of heads. Big cut opens on Nemkov, and a night that was looking like it was going to belong to Corey Anderson goes out the window. Of course, you never know. I'm always this guy who says you never know in MMA. You can't just assume somebody was going to win. But I do think we can say that it was looking like Corey's fight. I think I may have even been right about seeing an uncharacteristically tiring Nemkov come round four because he was really having to do a lot of work in round three. And if that's the case, maybe Corey would have been able to get him out of there. But unfortunately, we don't get to find out. We don't get to see. It did not break Corey's way. Maybe that was going to be a big moment for him, but he doesn't get it. And now he's going to have to try to do it all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of cuts the legs out from under the next logical question, which we usually go to in these segments, is where do these guys go from here? Most likely, in this case, we're going to see a rematch, correct?
I would imagine so.
Yeah, the Grand Prix is undecided as well. The $1 million is unclaimed. So, and of course the rightful champ is not settled. So, yeah, they're going to have to do this thing for sure. Someone wants their $1 million along with the belt. So,
yeah,
it's tough for Corey having to do it again now that Nemkov has already got the experience of being in there with him. But either way, it will be a big rematch that Bellator has to look forward to here.
Yeah, I took Nemkov. I thought he was going to have the skill edge, but Corey Anderson fights like a guy who, if he was in a ballroom dance floor, he would be a danger to everybody on the dance floor with him. He would just be bumping into everybody, taking people out left and right. And that's how he fights. He fights kind of like a big bully. And he exacts his will, and he proved to be, he was the bigger guy compared to Nemkov, and he forced his will on him. Okay, let's move on.
Looking at how that headbutt happened, I'm just surprised it doesn't happen more often. Because it was
I thought the same thing. It's such a natural, okay, the elbow's coming, I need to slide, but then his head is here. It's such an easy thing to occur.
Yeah. Super interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let us move on now from here, from Bellator for now, and hop over to the last weekend's UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Muhammad 2. Which was in which we saw Belal, the Bully Muhammad, get the unanimous decision victory over Vicente Luque in the UFC welterweight division. Remember, the two faced off in the UFC back in 2016. Luque earning a knockout victory in their very first round. But this time, Belal got the win by unanimous decision, earning a 49-46, 49-46, and 48-47 on the judges' scorecards. Let's discuss this fight. Omar, let me send it over to you first this time. What were your impressions of Belal? How do you think he looked this time out?
I thought Belal looked good. I want to know how many miles that kid ran leading up to that fight, because that boy was on his bike from minute one of that fight all the way through. He was not trying to get knocked out by Luque. He was not going to let it happen again. He was staying as far away from Luque's power as humanly possible. I think the one thing that I really took away from the fight as a whole was Belal's fight IQ and his timing. His timing off of his takedowns is disgusting.
Yep.
I mean, I find it super difficult to remember or think about many fighters that have that level of timing consistently to throw takedowns and get them. I mean, Luque was getting taken down not because Luque sucks at takedowns, but because there was the inevitable second that I think everybody is vulnerable to in the middle of a strike that Belal is able to just capitalize on a consistent basis. And I think he did it every round, if I'm not mistaken. And the pace that was set from the first minute was absolutely crazy, because Belal was fighting on his back foot, I feel like, most of that fight. It was an impressive performance when you consider that a lot of the things we talk about when it comes to being successful in a fight, forward pressure, keeping the guy on his back foot, all of those things were not really happening with Belal. And yet, he was very successful and very effective in his approach to that fight. Didn't get hit a lot, didn't get tagged a lot, although he did eat some shit in that fight. But it wasn't as clean as as in the first fight that they had, where he just completely essentially went out. And he was able to make his strikes land. He was able to kind of as Luque's waning in, he's able to crack him, move away, crack him, move away, crack him, move away. All along the fence, the lateral movement was exceptional. And as soon as you thought, Belal's just going to stay here and strike with him, boom. He goes for a leg, takes him down, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, Belal was able to basically keep him down most of the time that he took him down. I think towards the end of the fight, I want to say probably towards the fourth and the fifth round, Luque was having a little bit more success working his way back up again, and kind of resuming the fight. But early on, Belal was able to control that kid for the majority of the time once he got him down to the ground. I thought it was a very impressive performance from Belal, especially considering the outcome of the first time that they fought. And it does make me interested right away in a fight with Colby. I know everybody keeps calling out Colby, but the reality is Colby at this point is really the peak and sort of the standard for cardio fighting, right? Like, if you want to know how good a guy is and how much pace he can keep, how much he can go forward for 5 minutes straight, put him up against Colby. See if he can survive. Yeah. Because if he can beat the shit out of Colby, that's the real deal right there.
100%. Mark, let's bring you in here. Belal Muhammad last lost a fight in the UFC in early 2019 at the hands of Jeff Neal. Unbeaten since. He has won 7 of his past 8, including this last weekend against Vicente Luque. That one only being a no contest, not a loss. A no contest against Leon Edwards, which ended in an accidental eye poke, rendering Muhammad unable to continue. But my man is 21-3 overall as a pro. So what were your impressions of him keeping things rolling this past weekend against a very tough guy at welterweight in Vicente Luque?
I was really impressed by Belal Muhammad. I know there were not necessarily any huge moments of him like threatening or hurting Luque, but to take 4 rounds off a guy in Luque who is an absolute killer, who finishes everyone that he's put across from, including Belal the first time, is really impressive. Belal has gotten so good. Me and Omar have really similar takes here. He has gotten so good in 2 different ways. The first and most obvious is how much he has improved his wrestling. He had some beautiful shots in this one. The timing was chef's kiss perfect. That you couldn't adjust it by a nanosecond and make it more perfect. Most of these takedowns. And other than 1 or 2, Luque had no shot at stuffing any of them. The second way is that Belal has gotten so good at keeping guys off him. Like, we know the weaker aspect of his game is his striking, and no, he hasn't reached a point where, like, you're worried about him knocking you out necessarily, but he has raised his striking to a level that just keeps guys off him. It keeps them from truly exploiting that area. Like, if you told me Belal was going to have to fight the whole fight off his back foot, I never would have thought it would go well for him. But his movement just stops you from completely walking him down. He's got great timing on his check hooks that he throws out there and on his own lunges with like an elbow and things like that to mess up your rhythm and keep you honest. And he's gotten so much better with his defensive head movement, and he does just enough to stay safe and then sucker you in right when he's ready to take you down, and he kind of prevents you from ever being able to get into the range where you're going to tee off on him. So Luque tried his best to pressure Belal, to break down that defense and be able to pour it on him. And in round 3, he was kind of able to do that. And I think Luque was probably thinking, you know, I'm going to reach this point that he did reach in round 3, and then it's going to keep happening. But it didn't. You know, Belal just readjusted again, made him chase him a little bit, kept him honest enough, like I said, with some of those check hooks. And next thing you know, he's drawing him into another blast double. And Luque, frankly, just could not stuff enough takedowns. If he could have stuffed a couple more, maybe that's a fight that starts to look different. But he couldn't. Great fight from Belal. Great game plan. He clearly took rounds 1, 2, and 5. So Luque got 3. Even if you gave Luque 4, which I heard some people did, doesn't matter. Belal clearly won the fight, and he has lined himself up for a very, very big fight now.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that with this victory, Belal has notched quite a few high-level welterweight names on his record at this point. I already mentioned his outstanding professional record, and he really is knocking on the door of the upper echelon at welterweight. And welterweight itself is right now in a great place, very healthy place, the UFC welterweight division. Stacked rankings. When you're number 15 guy, and this is in the UFC rankings, not our own ranking system, ladies and gentlemen, just going off the UFC rankings, when your number 15 guy is as talented as a Shavkat Rakhmonov, things are going well for that division. That being said, Mark, let me stay with you here. Putting on the matchmaker hat yet again, what do you do next with Belal Muhammad?
So I think there's 3 options. The first 2 are Colby, who he called out, and Khamzat Chimaev, who he has kind of since called out on social media. But to me, it sounds like the UFC is going to match those 2 guys up. We were talking about that last week. It kind of still seems like that is the case. So if that's the case, I think the answer, as we also mentioned last week, is the 3rd guy, which is Gilbert Burns. Yes, Burns is coming off a loss, and Bilal's coming off a win. But if we're doing Usman Edwards and we're doing Colby Chimaev, that is the biggest fight Belal can get right now. I think Gilbert deserves a big opportunity like that. Dana apparently said the same thing to Gilbert about making sure he gets a big fight. And I think that fight works. Is it a little bit unfair to Belal? Maybe. But if he could ever beat a Gilbert Burns, you would not be able to deny him any longer at the top of that division. So that's where I would go.
Omar, agree, disagree? Any other names at the top of welterweight that you would want to see Belal match up with next?
I totally agree, and I don't think it's an unfair. I don't think it's an unfair name to throw out there. I think, you know, first of all, Gilbert Burns is above Vicente Luque, regardless of the fact that he lost. It's still fucking Gilbert Burns.
To clarify, I just meant unfair that Belal was probably thinking with a win here he would need 1 more for a title shot, whereas if he beats Burns, he might still need another one for a title shot. That's all I meant.
Depends on how he beat Burns. To be honest, man, there's a lot of room there for a title shot right now at the top, at the upper echelon here. It's really ripe for the taking. Khamzat is right there because of the performances he's putting on. You know, it's not even about the amount of fights that he's had. So
I guess it's true. If Colby ever turned back Chimaev and Belal beat Burns, it would probably be Belal that got the shot rather than Colby already. So yeah, it's true. It's true.
There's opportunity there for sure. But I think the Gilbert Burns fight is definitely a good fight. Stylistically, it's very interesting because it would seem like Burns would kind of have the edge there.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Belal kind of wanting to kind of play on the ground nowadays as much as he does. Gilbert Burns is liable to snatch a limb or catch him in something because his ground game is top notch. So it's definitely a very interesting fight. But if you can turn back Burns, man, he's got a real argument as far as I'm concerned for a title shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about the guy who came away from this weekend in the losing column, that being Vicente Luque. Omar, let me stay with you here. Looking at the welterweight rankings in the He's still, I would consider him pretty upper echelon at welterweight. What would you want him to do next in terms of his next opponent?
I think at this point, I would probably give him a crack at one of the guys who are moving on their way up. Sean Brady, off the top of my head, would be one of the best guys to throw in there. Excuse me. Stylistically, that is a super interesting fight. Sean Brady is a monster, all things that we've seen. So it would be nice to have him test himself against somebody who's been a proven monster, somebody we know is a killer, dangerous from all angles. And the fact is, if Luque can turn back one of these rising young kids, that's a good argument for why he deserves to stay at the top 5. Give him another top 5 guy again, and we keep it rolling.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Brady's a nice pick. Mark, do you have any other names or suggestions for where Vicente Luque might go from here to try to rebound?
I had the exact same answer. I originally wanted Magny to be the one to test Brady, but Magny is now booked against Shavkat. And frankly, this may be even better. I think it's a really must-make fight. The knock on Brady coming out of his last fight with Michael Chiesa was that he kind of didn't really fight and he more held him down. And you're going to have to fight against Vicente Luque. And I just think that would be a great style clash and a really good test for how good Brady is.
Absolutely. Nice. All right, gentlemen, let us keep on rolling here. Back over to the Bellator side of things this past weekend. Bellator 277 once again. Linton, is it Vassell or Vassell?
Second one.
Vassell. Round 1, TKO victory over Tim Johnson. Mark, let me stay with you right here. What was your reaction over Vassell getting it done by TKO?
That was a crazy fight. That thing turned on a dime. At the 2-minute mark, Vassell is still eating shots, and by minute 30, he is comfortably on Tim Johnson's back. So just an absolutely fantastic job by Vassell of weathering the storm, of turning it around, and then once he's on top, his hips are so damn heavy. He flattened Johnson. He is landing just enormous elbows, and Johnson rolls over and gets finished. Absolutely a statement win for Linton Vassell, and he continues to look really good as a heavyweight. The guy is plenty strong enough. He was a little slow at 205, and that issue is mostly gone now, fighting heavyweights. You can certainly get him out of there on the feet, as Johnson almost did, but if you let Linton Vassell get a hold of you, you are in a world of trouble.
Omar, what was your take? The official time coming at 4 minutes and 21 seconds of round number 1. Linton Vassell getting it done. What was your take?
That fight was wild, man. When I was watching it, I was pretty sure Tim Johnson had that in the bag. I was like, holy shit, this guy is just laying him out. He's about to pound him out. Next thing you know, Vassell's on his knees. He's got a leg wrapped up in a single, and he's turning the corner. Are you on top now? Are you alive? Are you still alive? And he's all of a sudden he's got his back. And then all of a sudden he's just pounding out Tim Johnson. And by the end of the fight, I was like, what the fuck just happened? We were watching one whole complete sequence, and then all of a sudden Vassell's winning. It happened in an instant. It wasn't bad refereeing by any stretch of the imagination. Nope. It was just sheer will and tenacity. That man was not going to be denied. It was very quick, though, from Vassell getting messed up to all of a sudden being on top, and then the finish happened. It was very, very quick. It was a wild fight up until that point. Tim Johnson might need to return to the mustache, though. I think that was the missing factor.
He would have finished him if he had the mustache power.
If he had that mustache, man, he'd have been ready to go. But he lost it, and there you go.
Nice. Mark, let me send it back to you. What do you want to do next with Linton Vassell?
So it feels like it was fairly recent, but it has been 3 years since he fought Valentin Moldavsky when he first moved up to heavyweight. That was his first fight at heavyweight. They've each fought 4 times since, so I think it's been long enough that we can go back to that and make that rematch. Moldavsky obviously just lost his belt. He needs an opponent. He's not going to fight Fedor because obviously he is trained by Fedor. I don't think they're going to give Linton Vassell a Fedor fight. I feel like they're going to give Fedor a more fun striker-type matchup than that for what seems like it's going to be his retirement fight. So let's do this thing and make a true, non-Fedor number 1 contender. They may end up giving Fedor a shot. We'll see how it shakes out. But other than that, those are the top 2 guys in Moldavsky and Vassell. And the first fight was, if I remember right, 29-28 and fairly close for Moldavsky. So I think you can absolutely run that one back. I think Linton Vassell has earned it.
Nice. You guys want to say anything else about that bout?
If you matched up Vassell and Congo, I promise you have no idea who's going to win that fight.
Probably true.
I like that matchup a lot, but Congo's already matched with Bader. That's the only reason I didn't mention that. But yeah, that's a good one.
Both of those guys would be liable to get knocked out. Next thing you know, they both win. They both have this ridiculous comeback all of a sudden. I think it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
That's super valid. I was just going to say one more thing before you go on. That Tim Johnson has lost 3 in a row now. Obviously, he's still very much a credentialed name in that Bellator heavyweight division, which isn't super deep. But they have 2 guys in Tyrell Fortune and in Davion Franklin who I feel like they've kind of been like struggling to find that vet to put one of these guys against to see if they can get over the top, because like their top vets are a little too good. It kind of feels like you don't want to put him maybe in there with a Congo just yet or a Moldavsky just yet. I think Tim Johnson is that guy. He's on a little bit of a losing streak. I think you take him, you take either Davion Franklin or Tyrell Fortune, and you let them show you if they are the real deal against him.
Okay, moving right along, Bellator 277 in the what was supposed to be in the featherweight division bout between Aaron Pico and Jeremy Kennedy had to get canceled. Kennedy withdrew only 8 days before this event, and it was replaced by Adli Edwards. I hope I'm saying his name right. The fight took place at a catch weight of 155 pounds, and Aaron Pico looked good once again, keeping things rolling, getting the win by TKO, the official time coming at 55 seconds of round number 3. Mark, let me start with you this time. What was your take on how Pico looked?
I think Aaron Pico has officially crossed the line of becoming very good at MMA. We need to see him in there against a high-level opponent in order to prove it, but I think it's happened. Like, I think this guy could fight for the title now.
Wow.
His hands are so damn good. His wrestling is so damn good. It has always been about the blend that held him back. He would kind of get frozen in transition moments or frozen looking for one thing while his opponent did another. He'd maybe look for a takedown and get cracked in the face because he'd forget he's still got a box while he's looking for a takedown. You know, it was a guy who had boxed and wrestled that was kind of getting used to MMA and blending them all together. And those moments seem to be gone now. He looks like a natural in there. He looks like a fluid mixed martial artist. And he is a dangerous ask for anyone in that division right now.
Absolutely. Omar, let me bring you in here. What was your take on Pico's performance?
I for one, love watching Aaron Pico. That kid is the epitome of technique. His hands, that kid could sell instructional videos on how to box, and I would fucking buy every single one of them. Okay? That kid's hands are insane. His body shots at this point are legendary. Yeah. Right? I mean, you find anybody in MMA who can hit body shots as consistently as that kid.
Yeah.
And you'd probably find a handful of fighters, if that. Aaron Pico's hands are disgusting. His wrestling game is very good. We do need to acknowledge, though, that Edwards is not elite. Right? The guy
not at all.
The guy that he fought this weekend was not elite. And I want to give credit where credit is due. The kid went 3 rounds with Aaron Pico. He was getting battered for a majority of that fight, but at no point did Edwards quit. Did he stop trying to fight back? He was throwing spinning shit at one point. I mean, the kid is tough, and I think he deserves all the credit in the world for taking that fight on short notice and having the performance that he did. Because no one, I think, gave him a shot in hell in the first place. But he had Aaron Pico measuring himself in that fight. Aaron Pico wasn't just allowed to run over this kid. So credit to him for that. But Aaron Pico is just on a different level, and that's just the reality. And he showed it that night. We definitely need to see him against somebody with some serious credentials, with some serious elite skills. Because if he's able to put them back, Aaron Pico should be fighting for the title.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify one thing I said. Obviously, I'm talking a big game about Aaron Pico. I just want to say I am well aware that the last time this guy was in there with like an established fighter, the last 2 times really, were 2 in a row where he got finished by Henry Corrales and by Adam Boric. I fully get it. But that was 6 fights ago. And the dude has won 6 straight. I know, like I said, none of them are on the same level of name as those guys. But the improvement I've seen over these 6 fights is so, so obvious. And I think we are more than ready to go back toward the top again.
100%.
Another cool thing about Aaron Pico people might not realize is that he is homegrown talent for Bellator. His entire 13-fight MMA pro career has all been at Bellator. So good for them. Good for Scott Coker for finding this talent in Aaron Pico.
Yeah.
That being said, Mark, if not an immediate title shot at featherweight taking on Patricio Pitbull, what would you want to see next for Aaron Pico?
Yeah, it definitely can't be immediate because Adam Boric is there, and Adam Boric has the TK over Aaron Pico, so that can't be happening. He's going to have to win another fight for sure, at least one, if not 2. I don't hate going back to Jeremy Kennedy. I'm not sure how long Kennedy's out for. I actually don't remember the reason Kennedy had to drop out of this fight. But I actually think I would switch it up a little bit and go with Mads Burnell. I just think that's an all-action fight and is more intriguing to me than the Jeremy Kennedy one would be. And that's one that could really skyrocket Pico, maybe even directly to a title shot, assuming Boric had already gotten his by then, if he could beat Mads Burnell.
Omar, anything to add?
Yeah, just to kind of, I guess, add a little something to it. I don't necessarily see Boric beating Pitbull, but that's, we'll save those details for another time. But in the event that Boric doesn't beat Pitbull, I think that would be a nice way to get Aaron Pico from Burnell if he wins right up to Boric, and then for his title shot after that if everything goes as planned. So definitely not too far off from the title shot at this point. And Aaron Pico against Pitbull, if Aaron Pico is this good and is that effective against somebody elite, that's a fight, my man. That is a big fight.
It feels crazy to say, considering the guy has lost when he has taken steps up. But my brain is like so in love with the idea of Pico fighting Pitbull. Like I could absolutely see him do it. I don't know if that sounds crazy to people listening, but the dude is good.
I can imagine him dropping him with a body shot, a left body hook right to the kidney, and just puts Pitbull right on his knees.
I mean, there's a level of like poise that Pitbull has where maybe he could make Pico like open himself up to something and just put his lights out, but I don't know. I would love to see it.
Pico's looking good, man. His confidence too. I think he's at an all-time high. He's walking around like he knows he's good.
Yes, agree. He believes it now.
Yeah, and when you have a performance like that, it's hard for anybody to tell you shit. So, I'm excited to see what's next for Pico. I really am.
All right, moving right along, gentlemen. We're going to hop back over to the UFC side of things from this past weekend, but this time we're going to throw the remainder of the fights from UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Muhammad 2, into our lightning round. So if you're joining us for the first time, folks, our lightning round is our not a game show segment where I challenge these two distinguished gentlemen to give me their most lightningest takes about these following fights. Lightning takes, meaning a sentence or two max. Okay, here we go. We're going to do it. We're going to do it tonight.
Wait. Before we do get into this, we have to have a disclaimer for this round. There were 2 illegal shots throughout this lightning round. Them might not be so lightning of a round. I'm just letting you know. We may have some shit to talk about for those. But otherwise, lightning-ing. All right, go for it.
We're getting the one right off the bat, so here it is.
Yeah, right off the bat. Also, probably the 2 hardest names to pronounce on the card. In the middleweight division, once again, UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Muhammad 2. In the co-main event, in the middleweight division, Borralho defeated Omar Gadziev by technical decision. An odd decision to read if you're an announcer. Hello. The decision was read 29-27, 29-27, and 29-27. The official time coming, odd when there's scores to read, with the official time being 3 minutes and 56 seconds of round number 3. Mark, go first.
Caio looks like someone to watch in every way. His control was unreal. They kept talking about how he trains with Damian Maia, so I see where that came from. Obviously a shitty ending. It was certainly an illegal blow, but it sounds like Omar has more to say on this. Ref's discretion. He thought it was accidental. Kyle gets the win, and frankly, he deserved it. He looked fantastic.
Omar, take it.
I don't understand though this whole thing about intentional, accidental. He hit him illegally.
I mean, I get it.
There's no one's responsibility to be throwing illegal shots but your own. Why the hell is this kid losing a fight when he gets blasted illegally? Like, then what was the whole point of Sterling versus Jan? We just went through this whole charade with this fight. Same thing essentially happens in this fight. Nah, let's go to a decision for this one. This shit doesn't make any sense. You basically just told somebody, purposefully throw an illegal strike in the third round once it goes to the scorecards, and you'll be good to go if you're winning that fight. Yeah. It was the second worst decision that night. And we're gonna get to the first, but this one was just straight up madness. I don't understand this shit. It should have been a disqualification, and that's the only time to me it should be accidental is if somebody is moving in the middle of a strike. So let's say, for example, somebody is against the cage, their hands are up, right? They are not considered a downed opponent in that moment. The guy goes to throw a strike, and in the moment of him throwing the strike, the guy drops his knee to become a downed opponent.
Right.
And his knee hits the ground before the other knee hits the face. At that point, we're nuancing, and you were trying to kind of game that system. That we can call accidental. I'm not gonna. We can go to a decision for that. Dude was on the ground.
Right.
Dude was on the ground. He wasn't going nowhere, and he got blasted in the face.
His knees weren't on the ground though. It was just his fingers, and I hate that shit anyway.
Yeah.
Listen.
It's true.
If you're a downed opponent, you're a downed.
The rules got to be the rules until they change. All right, let's move on. Moving on. Lightning round. Okay, in the welterweight division, Andre Fiallo defeated Miguel Baeza by TKO with punches. The official time coming 4 minutes and 39 seconds of round number 1. Omar, let me stay with you. Lightning.
This one hurt. Miguel Baeza looked really good up until he didn't. I don't know what to do with Miguel Baeza at this point. I don't know what to make of him. Good. It was a good finish for Fiallo, but this Baeza shit's got my feelings all over the place.
Mark, take it.
Andre Fiallo. Fiallo? Is that how he says it?
I've heard both. Fiallo.
Andre Fiallo can box, boy. I mean, everything he throws is so tight and so clean, straight back to his face. It's great technique. He absolutely had to eat some from Baeza, but that finish with the uppercuts from the clinch was nasty. And maybe a bit of a tough stoppage for Baeza because he was kind of still with it, but Agreed. A big and legitimizing win for Fiallo.
Absolutely. Omar.
He went.
He went. Shit. Fucking switching back and forth. Fuck. Okay, in the women's bantamweight division, Maida Bueno Silva defeats Wu Yanan by unanimous decision, earning a 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. The unanimous decision victory going to Bueno Silva. Mark, go first.
Bueno Silva looked really interesting at 135 pounds, I thought. Her power translated up a weight class, and she looked like she'll have good speed for the division. So we will see, but good win.
Omar, take it.
This was basically like the Belal Luque fight, except what should happen on paper when somebody is moving back on their back foot and fighting on their back foot the entire time. Jan tried to be slick and tried to use her movement to do a lot of stuff, but she was just she just wasn't effective and really inefficient with her movement, and it really cost her. I mean, the girl's face was swelling up like a cherry. It was wild.
Okay, moving along in the featherweight division, Pat Sabatini defeats TJ Laramie by unanimous decision, earning a 30-26 on all three judges' scorecards. Omar, go first.
This was kind of an ass beating, but at the same time, I came away loving both of these guys. I'm not really sure what Mark's take is from this, but both of these guys look like monsters in their own right. I know TJ Laramie's got a 10-8 round out of that, or was a victim of the 10-8 round there, but both of those guys, I feel like against anybody else, the other guy's gonna die. TJ Laramie's a monster, and so is Pat Sabatini. So I'm excited to see both guys from this point forward.
Mark, go.
Yeah, TJ Laramie has a lot of talent for a guy that is now 0-2 in the UFC. So we will see. I'm assuming he's going to get a third shot. But Pat Sabatini, and we knew this, but Pat Sabatini is really good. He is now 4-0 in the UFC, and it's time to move this guy up the line and see if he still looks this good against dangerous guys. Like, it's enough of beating the lower-level guys now. He's 4-0. He looks unreal every time. Like, let's go. Let's see what Pat Sabatini is.
Okay, moving along in the welterweight division, two of the hardest names to ever look at on paper. Mounir Lazzez defeated Ange Loosa by unanimous decision, earning a 30-27 on all three judges' scorecards. Omar, go first.
Lazzez looks like he hits like a hammer. It was decent, very good fight, very one-sided fight. I thought. I don't really care for him shouting out Irish warlords or crime bosses or whatever it is, but
tough look.
Yeah, but solid performance, you know.
Yeah, Mounir Lazzez can hit you with anything at any time. He's long, he is clean, he's got great variety. He's a dangerous guy. It's a shame we didn't get to see him against Zaleski dos Santos, which was the scheduled fight, because God, that would have been a friggin' banger. Yeah. But great win for him. But yeah, as Omar said, unfortunately, he kind of killed all shine that he had by immediately shouting out Daniel Kinahan, which was not a good look whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on into the heavyweight division. Devin Clark defeated William Knight. Those are some easy names to say. By TKO, the official time coming in 3 minutes, 21 seconds of round number 3. Mark, take it first.
So this is two light heavyweights who were fighting up because it was a little bit short notice, whatever. And William Knight weighed in at 251 pounds.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Insane. So I guess
that
he is going to do the long-term move to heavyweight because holy hell. And he looked impressive in round 1 too. The jumping knee out of the guillotine for a guy that big was crazy. But Clark gets a takedown in round 2, starts to work his game. You can tell how heavy Clark is on top because Knight is stupid strong and cannot move Clark at all, which tells you a lot about Clark's heaviness. And then in round 3, Knight just got too comfortable against the fence. Honestly, it looked like he wasn't even really paying attention. It's kind of a weird thing to say. Like I think he just didn't think he was in danger at that moment. He looked very relaxed, and Clark just bombs him out of there with 2 big ones. So great win for Devin Clark.
Omar, take it.
Yeah, that was as violent of a finish as it comes. It was as far as I was concerned, it's kind of back and forth. You know, the first round I gave for Knight, second round I gave to Clark, and by the time we got to the third round, you know that round was basically the fight was up for a winner to just take it, and you know for Knight to just go, or I'm sorry, not Knight, for Clark to go in there, kind of have the control against the fence, and then just mollywop him into, out of existence. Good performance from him, man. Solid.
Yeah, great performance. His hands looked great in that finish. Let's move on. In the women's bantamweight division, Kianzad defeats Landsberg, by unanimous decision, earning a 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Omar, go.
That girl pieced up Lena Landsberg. Has Lena Landsberg always fought by not fighting? Is that like a thing with her where she just walks around getting pieced up?
Kind of. Until she suckers you into a massive elbow, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
which she almost did.
But you can't take 30 shots to land 1 elbow. That's not math. You can't do that. She landed like 4 elbows in the third round, but got hit 100 times. Her face was bleeding all over the place. Yep. Just not the smartest approach to a fight. Good performance by Kianzad.
Marco.
Yeah, Penny is officially the Queen of Sweden. She fought a really veteran, well-rounded fight in this one. And outside of those 2 big elbows where she got caught in the second round, I thought she really controlled and outclassed Landsberg the entire way.
Okay, moving on into the lightweight division, Drakkar Klose defeated Brandon Jenkins by TKO in the second round. The official time, 33 seconds. Mark, go.
Drakkar Klose, welcome back. Brandon Jenkins can take an ungodly amount of damage, but man, Drakkar Klose looked like an animal. I am happy to see him back. There seemed to be a lot of heat behind that Mark Madsen call-out after he won. I'm not sure what that heat is, but sign me up. I love that matchup, and I hope we get it.
Omar, take it. Klose defeats Jenkins by TKO.
So yeah, that was also as violent as it comes. That got to a point too where I felt like they could have stopped that way before it ended up just where it was. I mean, the kid was just taking straight up damage. He wasn't even giving anything back to close at one point. It got rough to watch, so I'm glad it did end. Little side inside MMA sphere note: apparently, Jakar Close does not fuck with Mark Madsen's coach or any of the teammates, and that's where all of that bad blood comes from.
Nice,
So,
nice. All right, staying in the lightweight division, Rafa Garcia defeats Jesse Ronson by submission via rear naked choke. The official time coming in 4 minutes and 50 seconds of round number 2. Omar, staying with you. Take it.
Garcia, viva la raza! That was a beautiful performance from the Mexican man. You gotta love that technique. His boxing was also, I thought, extremely effective. But I was really surprised to see how good he was at the wrestling, especially being straight up from Mexico. We haven't really seen that kind of talent from wrestling talent, I should say, from people born in Mexico. You know, we've seen it from some Mexican Americans. We've seen a lot of good jiu-jitsu guys from Mexico. But we haven't really seen a lot of guys with solid wrestling technique. And I think that was a really nice, refreshing change. And his takedowns were as good as they come, man. He was able to really get effective with it and stay on the ground and get that submission. Props to Garcia. I'm ready to see him again.
Hey, man, shout out to my boy, Efren Escudero, Hecho en Mexico. He's a wrestler.
Hecho en Mexico.
Yeah, man. By the way, what does La Raza mean?
The race.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. Okay, good to know.
Long live the race.
Okay. Mark, take it. Garcia getting it done over Ronson by RNC.
Yeah, Garcia just fought a really, business-like fight. He had a great game plan. He held to it. He used every aspect of MMA. He looked good everywhere, and he somewhat nullified Ronson, who was a dangerous striker. And then, of course, gets him out of there with a statement finish as well. So you can't do better than that.
Okay, moving on into the heavyweight division. Martin Buday defeated Chris Barnett. What's so funny? I say it wrong.
Omar's already shaking his head.
This is the other one. I'm about to go off.
Oh,
We
okay.
can just tee it up.
Defeated my man Chris Barnett, Beast Boy. Oh, I was so disappointed in this. Another on the same card, technical decision. The official time coming at 1 minute and 35 seconds. The scores were 30-27 on all three scorecards.
Let me
Omar,
go first. Let me go
why don't
first
you go
to get
first,
out of the
buddy?
way, and then we can give Omar the floor.
Okay, you go first, Mark.
It was an ugly fight. Buday had a bit of hype coming in, but he kind of bored here in his debut. Obviously a weird finish, as Omar will touch on. But, yeah, I mean, Buday did win, but we'll see what he's got next. Omar, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was bullshit. We should mention that Barnett was losing that fight legitimately up until that point. He was getting kneed, punched from all angles. He was basically just getting controlled. Barnett had no answer for forward movement or clinch work. No lateral movement, no corner or no quarter stepping out of the way. He was literally just walking back and allowing Buday to push him up against the cage. Not the way you're going to win a fight against a grappler. So I hope he figures that out, because that's not the last guy that's going to do that to him, especially after this performance.
Yeah.
That's that. The ending to this fight also doesn't make any sense. He's against the cage. He's down on the ground. This fucking guy just brings his elbow straight down on top of his head. Where do you expect him to land that other than the back of his head? Because that was what was there, the back of his head. For who was it? Dan Miragliotta? I don't remember who the ref was. I think it was Miragliotta, right?
Yes.
For Miragliotta to be like, well, it wasn't intentional, so we're going to take it to the score. What do you mean? Did you ask him? Did you have a private session with him and find out if he's mad at Chris Barnett? Did he mean to do it? Or his feelings are hurt? That's not the point. The point is, you had a strike that you didn't account for where it was going. You weren't responsible for it. You hit him in the back of the head. It is an illegal blow. Chris Barnett can't continue. We could argue that he pulled an Aljo, that he was milking it, this, that. That's not the point. Just like the Aljo fight. That's not the point. Right. The point is an illegal shot was thrown. The fight could not continue. That fight is a DQ. I don't understand what this intentional, accidental, differential
Or no contest.
is.
Or no contest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the no contest, though, would only happen if they can't go to a decision. But because this was the third round and 2 rounds had already been completed, instead of a no contest, they go to a technical decision, and they just go with whatever the scorecards are in that moment.
See, what's confusing about this is I thought if it's ruled accidental, then it would be a no contest. If it's if it's just
You're right, unless enough of the fight has already happened.
So here's an
Go
example.
to a decision.
For Luque and Belal, the first time Luque and Belal happened, the eye poke happened in round 1.
Not
right?
Luque and Belal, Leon Edwards and Belal.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Edwards.
Leon Edwards and Belal. In the first round, Leon poked him in the eye, like almost like ripped his bottom eye lid off or whatever happened.
Don't remind me.
That happened in the first round. That was considered a no contest because not enough of the fight had gone down. Had it gone down in round 3 or even round 4 of those main event rounds, it would have been considered a technical decision by that point, and they just would have went to the scorecards.
So tell me again, it has to be past the halfway mark of the fight?
In a 3-round fight, I think you have to be
2 rounds.
You have to be. I think it's past 2.5. I could be wrong, but in a 5-round fight, it's more than that. I don't know what it is in a 5-round fight because obviously it's more than 3. Otherwise, Corey would have won that fight.
Yeah, I accidental to me means like an eye poke, for example. Like, when people are pushing off of somebody to create distance, I'm okay with considering that an accident. When you are in control, on the ground, and you are measuring your shots, you can't just be like, oh, it was an accident. Like, I didn't mean to hit him in the back of the head. Where the fuck did you mean to hit him? That was what was there. I don't understand.
Yeah, but
that should have been a... Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish.
I was just going to say that should have been a disqualification. It should not have gone to a technical decision.
Okay, I draw the line in terms of accidental, but I just feel that a foul should still be called a foul, even if it's not committed with intent, but if it is still committed with negligence, such as an eye poke, such as one of the many John Jones eye pokes. It's just like, John, it's like it's so negligent at this point, like it kind of borderlines on intentional to me, but to me, negligence kind of still counts as a foul.
Especially guys who do it on who are repeat offenders, I would 100% agree. But we got to realize that eye pokes, specifically eye pokes in this specific part here, eye pokes are unfortunately going to happen just based off of the physical issues of the sport and kind of what happens. But you're right, there are guys who are repeat offenders that should be told in the back, like, you don't get that leniency of like one eye poke or whatever it is that they seem to have. Like as soon
one
as you
free
poke
eye
somebody
poke per fight, which is crazy.
Yeah, John Jones shouldn't get that. Like, as soon as he pokes somebody, he needs to lose a point, like, immediately, right away. He shouldn't get any leniency at this point.
Right.
But again, illegal shots, especially illegal shots that force people not to continue, we shouldn't be worrying about what the intent was. If it was a lack of responsibility on the part of the controlling fighter or the attacking fighter, that's it. That's it. Just like Jan and Aljo, it had another. Who knows whether Jan intended to hit him or not? That doesn't matter. He did. The opponent was down. He has to take responsibility for his actions. That's just what it is.
Mark, straight away in.
I was looking up the no contest stuff.
Okay.
So I was wrong. Maybe Omar. I don't remember what Omar said. In a 3-round fight, as long as 2 rounds are completed, it can go to a decision. Completed. In a 5-round fight, 3 rounds have to be completed. So if Corey's would have happened 4 seconds later, he could have got that decision.
Yeah.
See, what's weird to me is that...
And see, that Corey one is accidental, right? They were both in
100%.
motion. They were both... Like, that is an accident.
That was more accidental than either of these other ones.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
In the case of Boudet versus Barnett here, the score still read as 30-27. So the referee stops the fight with time left on the clock in the third and says, okay, there's enough time has gone by in the fight. Judges, turn in just like make a score for this third round.
Yeah.
I feel like it should 30-27 is bullshit because if the fight ends because of a foul that is so bad that the fight can't continue, a point should be deducted.
Correct. And it was from Bahalio. It was not from Boudet, which I didn't understand. Boudet, whatever his name is. It was from Bahalio. That's why all his were 29-27.
Exactly.
Yeah. They both should
to me, I'm saying it should be automatic.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, let us try to pick up the pieces of this lightning round. Okay. Moving on back into the lightweight division. Jordan Levitt defeats Trey Ogden by split decision, earning a 29-28 on two of the judges' scorecards. Ogden earning his own 29-28. Mark, let me start with you here. What was your take? Who did you have winning the fight?
So, I'm torn on who won it. Levitt was so underwhelming when he was on top. He never looked to land a single big shot the entire time. He did win round 2, in my opinion, just based solely off the low kicks. The other two were really close. I'm fine with him winning, but it wasn't too impressive.
Omar?
Yeah, definitely one of the least impressive performances that he's had. I've been high on him just because of his past performances and his dexterity with his kicks and his legs and kind of how he moves. It was definitely a closer fight than I think it should have been. He didn't do anything on the ground. He just kind of was content with having control. I also wasn't upset that he won. I had him winning 2-1, but again, not a hill I was really prepared to die on. I will say this, and Jamal Hill kind of had it. I think a lot of people's thoughts in mind. If you knock me out or if you win against me, and then you twerk, we're fighting again right there, like right there. Like you can't twerk after you beat me. We're gonna fight again right there. I mean, that's a clip now for the ages. Jordan Levitt is. First, it was the dirty dancing where he gets held up in the air, and now he's twerking on people. Oh boy, he's gonna cause a storm for all these people.
The only thing worse is when Israel Adesanya literally humped Paulo Costa.
Yes,
Paulo Costa, once he regained his senses, he should have bum rushed Adesanya.
yes.
Okay, moving on into the women's strawweight division. Sampage Hughes defeats Estela Nunes by a majority decision. This was an entire evening of weird and funky decisions. One judge had a 28-28 even. The other two scores went to Hughes 29-27. Omar, what was your take? Do you think the rightful person won this fight?
I feel like I had Nunes winning that fight, but maybe I was wrong. I maybe the damage that Hughes was wearing on her face was maybe playing more in my mind than maybe it should have been. I should probably go back and watch it. I wasn't super interested when I was watching it in the first place, but it was a good fight. It was a very bloody fight for sure. I do have one question: does Sam Hughes, is she missing 2 teeth normally, or did she end up losing those 2 teeth in that fight?
I wondered the same thing.
I didn't even notice.
What the hell?
Wow.
Two front teeth.
She hendoed that. Like,
I did not notice.
Wow.
You didn't notice? Oh, that image has been going around social media.
That
Of
image
her
is burned
smiling
in my
right into the
head.
camera with the 2 front teeth gone.
Yeah, that image is forever in my head now.
Yeah,
so.
man.
So, to your point, I understand maybe why you thought Nunes had won, because Nunes certainly won round 1, and she was winning round 2, in my opinion, until there was about, whatever it was, 25 seconds left, it might have been. It was a close round 2, but guns to my head, I would have said Nunes won it. And then Hughes gets that takedown and lands just like 20 punches. And I just felt like that was enough for her to take that round. And then, they landed, literally from the takedown, landed in a crucifix position. And Hughes was just like, all right. And just, Nunes couldn't even defend. She just had to lay there and wait for the round to end. So I feel like Hughes stole the round there, but she fought a really gutty fight. She sealed it in round 3. And Nunes can certainly strike. Is it Nunes or Nunez? Either way, Nunes. She can certainly strike. Her game is not complete, but there are skills there.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring this one home, boys. In the bantamweight decision, China's Haley Alatang defeats Kevin Kroon by TKO in the very first round. The official time coming at just 47 seconds. Omar, go first.
There's not even much to talk about in this fight. That boy just lit him up from the moment that fight started. Just froze him with all of those punches, and eventually the kid just went out. I mean, it was a great performance. It's hard to kind of gauge people based on such quick finishes like that, but you can't hate him for it. It was a great performance.
Mark, play us out of the lightning round. What's your take? Alatang getting the knockout victory over Kroon.
I was concerned with Kroom's chin, trying to cut down to 135 again for the first time in, I think it was 6 or 7 years, being as big as he is, and that was validated pretty quickly. Literally the first big shot rocked him bad, and he just could not recover fast enough to stop the barrage that was coming at him, and that was that. So, yeah, nice win for Alateng.
Very nice, gentlemen. Aside from the detours for the weird decisions, very nice lightning round. Very nice, very nice.
Thanks, Omar.
With that being said, thank you, scoring state commission. With that being said, gentlemen, let us put a bow on this past weekend's UFC Fight Night by finding out who rose and who fell in our very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings, with our very own Mark Priaulx.
All right, we got 4 risers and 1 faller this week. Oddly enough, I feel like that's like the most common combination. Don't ask me why. But working down from the top of the card, we have Kyle Bahalio making his debut. He debuts in my middleweight rankings at number 59. Good initial win for him. We'll see where he goes. Andre Fialho moves from number 64 to number 41 in my welterweight rankings by virtue of finishing Miguel Baeza. A big jump for him. He looks good to start his career. He had a competitive loss to Michel Pereira on short notice in his debut. So we'll see where he goes. Rafa Garcia moves from number 72 to number 54 in my lightweight rankings. Nice veteran name added to his resume in Jesse Ronson and moves up because of it. Last riser is Martin Budai. I keep forgetting how he says his name. He debuts in my heavyweight rankings at number 29 off of the controversial weird win that he probably should have been DQ'd for. And then the one faller is Jesse Ronson. He was a tough guy to rank, having to reinsert him into lightweight. I ranked him at 41 since he did finish Nicholas Dalby on short notice at welterweight. He was losing the whole fight, but then he got Dalby out of there. So I feel like I had to rank him somewhat high. He does move down now. I moved him from 41 to 55 off of the loss to Rafa Garcia. And that is it.
Okay, thank you, sir. And that does it for this week's recap of fights from last weekend. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Find us on social media once again at @andnew_MMA show in all the places. We are probably most active on Twitter and Instagram. Find us wherever you get your podcasts if you want audio only for your commute. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, go right ahead and share this video with somebody who you know and love, someone who you know loves MMA and might not yet know about our show. And of course, subscribe yourself and hit that bell icon so that you never miss an episode. We'd love to connect with you guys, so leave us a comment down below. All right, boys, let us hop into our next segment. Inside the MMA sphere with Omar Artola. Omar, let us know what is going on in mixed martial arts.
What is going on? I was laughing earlier because poor Mike, man. We screw with Mike with this lightning round. This poor man put quicker UFC lightning round, and we made it even slower this time around. So just sorry, Mike.
It's all good.
All right, let's get into it. We actually have something hot off the presses, literally 8 minutes ago, live as we are talking here. Robert Whittaker is out of the fight in June. He has an injury and will not be competing. Yes. I wish it was better news, but here we are. That is super unfortunate. This comes directly from Robert Whittaker's, one of his social media pages.
Fuck.
I feel like he's gotten hurt so many times in his career. Am I wrong?
100% agree.
Yeah. Some of them I feel like have been like body issues and not even like injuries, right? Because I think he had that one. It was like some kind of intestinal issue or something like that where he was out for a minute. But yeah, he does seem to be injured a lot, which really.
Man, who do you even give that fight to?
Who is he fighting? I don't even remember now.
Marvin Vettori.
Oh, right.
It's a huge fight, and you already obviously Cannonier's fighting Izzy. You booked Sean Strickland. It could have been Sean Strickland right there. But you booked him against Pereira already. You're not going to make Costa Vettori again, are you?
You don't think they would just take Strickland from Pereira? They've done worse.
maybe. I feel like they want Pereira to win, though. I feel like that's very special made for Pereira to win so they can jump him right to Izzy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any chance we get a run back with Paulo Costa. That would be wild.
That would be. Especially nowadays with where Costa is now.
Yeah.
With all of the craziness that Costa's gone through, all the shit talking that Costa has had to endure with people telling him to just shut the fuck up and fight, make weight, and all this other stuff. So I guess we'll see. So we're also, while we're recording this, we're also in the middle of PFL doing their thing. So it should be noted that Cara de Zapata, Antonio Carlos Jr. has snatched a 29-second submission win to kick off the 2022 season. Congratulations to him. I'm a big fan of his, so nice to see that he's still doing nice things. Next on the list, we got a couple of announcements as far as rosters are concerned. Kay Hansen is no longer with the UFC after her loss to Piera Rodriguez. And UFC Miles Johnson has been suspended for 6 months for prescribed... What did I say?
Miles Johns.
Is it Jones?
Johns.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I thought I said. My bad. Miles Johns was suspended for 6 months for prescribed Adderall use, and he was also fined by the Nevada Athletic State Commission. The real issue is he didn't disclose the Adderall use to the commission, so he's worked with them. They came out with a deal. He's got a 6-month suspension now that ends August 5th, and he's also been fined just under $3,500, which seems like a lot, but
whack.
Yeah. Next on the list, definitely far from the least important piece of news that we have, Marlon Magic Moraes has officially retired from MMA following his last loss. It was 1 day shy of his 15-year pro debut, which is kind of sad. We definitely owe a lot of fun fights to Marlon Moraes. He's had a great career in the UFC. I think he's been with the UFC since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Has beaten some of the best guys in the division. Has had a lot of ups. Definitely has had a lot of downs. I would hope that the reason that he's retiring is because he just, he wants to spend more time with his family, not take a lot of damage the way he's been taking, which, you know me. I always respect that stuff. I don't think you should be taking damage when you're not confident that you can't. So congratulations to Marlon. Great career. I don't think anybody could say any bad things about him at this point. He was definitely right there when it came to the title picture, but never really made the top of the mountain, unfortunately.
You could also say that him and Justin Gaethje were like the co-faces of World Series of Fighting, which obviously has evolved to become PFL. So that's a nice feather in the cap as well.
Very true. Will Brooks is back in the news for some odd reason. He's obviously, after his PFL stint, he's gone down to more regional promotions. He hasn't been fighting on the big stage as much. During his tenure in his last fight in the promotion called Art of Scrap, he won his fight via leg break. And some dude wrecked his leg all over Will Brooks' shin. So,
Yikes.
Not really the... I guess it's a win, so I guess it's good to have that on your record, but crazy reason to be back in the news in the MMA world. That's all we got in terms of news. Let's get right into a couple of fight announcements, and we'll get right into this upcoming weekend. Tanner Boser is out against Alexandre Romanov. He will now face Chase Sherman at UFC Fight Night on April 23rd. Roman Kopylov, I'm going to go with that. Is out, and Jordan Wright will now be facing Marc-Andre Barriault at UFC Fight Night on April 23rd. This is going to be a 190-pound catchweight as opposed to 185 pounds. Jonathan Martinez versus Vince Morales has been added to UFC Fight Night on May 21st. Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik will headline UFC Fight Night on June 4th. Along with that fight, Mike Trezano versus Lucas Almeida has also been added to that card. Wellington Turman, who is the light heavyweight champions, one of his prodigies there, is out against his fight with Julian Marquez. He will now be facing Gregory Rodriguez at UFC Fight Night on June 18th. Cody Stamann versus Eddie Wineland has been added to UFC June 18th. If you missed that, Eddie Wineland is back, and he is fighting. So, I don't know what to make of that, but that should be interesting one way or another. I didn't even know he was still active, but there it is. Thiago Moises versus Christos Giagos has been added to UFC Fight Night on June 25th. Along with that fight, Raulian Paiva versus Sergey Mozrov has been added, as well as Tagir Ulanbekov versus Tyson Nam, which, frankly, that fight should be a straight-up banger. Neil Magny will be getting a fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, since we're not going to give him, I guess, who was it?
Chimaev.
That's also been added to the June 25th card. Brad Tavares will be stepping in against Dracus Duplessis. He has been added to the UFC 276 card on July 2nd, which is International Fight Week, so that is a huge, huge card to be on. And finally, Cynthia Calvillo will be fighting Nina Nunes, added to the July 9th event, and this will be at women's flyweight. And that's all we got for you this week.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us the updates of all the things going on outside of the cage in the MMA world. With that being said, gentlemen, let us now turn to the future. The very near future, that being this coming weekend. Let us first mention, by the way, that going on right now, this very night, is PFL 2022 number 1. That is the first event of the 2022 season. That is right. PFL operates or tries to operate as other professional sports leagues do, NFL, NBA, MLB, and they do annual season. So tonight, event number 1 of the season is happening right now, so we can't really preview. We don't really have the ability to preview it because it's happening literally right now, and we can't obviously break it down because it hasn't happened yet. So we hope that you guys watch that, and if any of the fights are great, maybe we'll recap them next week. The main event, of course, is the PFL debut of longtime UFC veteran Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens taking on Clay Collard. Should be a banger. Any other fights or fighters that you guys want to highlight real quick from tonight's PFL event?
I've been following the results, so that's actually the only fight that is yet to happen. But Don Madge versus Roush Manfield was the co-main tonight, and I thought Don Madge would get the win there, even though Manfield looked so good last season. And Madge won the first 2 rounds, but it appears he just got finished in the 3rd via TKO, so that's a big win for Manfield. And then the other highlight would be the one Omar already said, which is that Antonio Carlos Jr. gets another first-round finish. He's been pretty fantastic since moving over to the PFL.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks like Little Heathen is in the middle of fighting right now. He's there's already a highlight up of him cracking this dude right in the face. So, as of right now, it looks like he's doing well.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, him and Collard. I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Okay, let us get into this coming weekend, boys. First, let me just say first, we're going to talk about fights from this upcoming UFC Fight Night, Andrade versus Lemos, and as well as 2, not 1, but 2 Bellator fights this coming weekend, both Friday night and Saturday night. Before the Bellators, let's talk about UFC Fight Night, Andrade versus Lemos. We're going to talk about, I believe, 5 different fights from the main card of this fight night. Before we dive into any of those, are there any other fights, especially on the prelims, that you guys want to highlight, fights or fighters?
I'll just quickly highlight 2 in the interest of time. We probably would have talked about Alexander Romanov versus Tanner Boser. As Omar said, Boser's out, so it's now Chase Sherman who's fighting Romanov, but Romanov is still a guy to watch. He is slowly ascending this division. He kind of hasn't had the greatest luck, as we see here, where he was supposed to get a shot against Boser, but he has been very good and is someone to watch. And then the other one that's noteworthy is that Tyson Pedro is making his return after like 3 years off with a myriad of injuries and other things, so I'll be curious to see how he looks.
Do you see the line for that fight for him being off as long as he's been off?
What was it, like 4-1, or am I thinking of a different fight?
Dude, Tyson on the UFC website, Tyson Pedro is a minus 650.
Oh my God! Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. For a guy that hasn't fought that long.
Ike Villanueva, who I feel like has been more active, is a plus 460.
Wow.
Seems like a bit much.
I think Pedro wins, but wow.
Yes, but it does seem like a bit much.
Yes, agree.
But definitely look out for Tyson Pedro. That boy is always one to watch. I'm excited to see what his return is, if he's gotten better, if he's used the time off wisely, but excited.
All right. Starting in the, where are we at here? Charles Jourdain versus Lando Vannata in the featherweight division, gentlemen. This is a great fight. Great fight at featherweight. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. What is your take on Jourdain taking on Vannata?
So super tight odds here. Last I looked, it was Jourdain minus 125, slight favorite, and Vannata even money plus 100. This is a great matchup. I could easily see this one being fight of the night. Both these guys bring it. They've both been a bit up and down in their careers, but are obviously talented. I do like Charles Jourdain. I think he's dangerous. I think his last performance against Andre Ewell was the best we've ever seen from him. But I really liked what I saw from Lando in his featherweight debut. Of course, it was Mike Grundy, very different type of fighter than Jourdain is. But I thought Lando looked a lot more like controlled danger and a lot less like someone spamming playing a video game. And that's what the next step has always been for him, to just kind of control his weapons a bit more. He's quicker than Jourdain. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. I think it'll be a scrap, but I'm going to say Lando edges it. I think he could even mix in some wrestling to kind of mix it up, and I will say he takes it 29-28.
Okay. Omar, give us your take. Jourdain versus Vannata.
So that fight is very interesting to me. Stylistically, I think both of them are bangers. They're definitely, I would imagine both of them actually keep it standing up for quite some time. They both seem like very violent guys. The one thing that concerns me about Lando in this fight specifically is his cardio. I think the one thing that we've seen from Lando relatively consistently is he's hot out of the gate, spinning attacks, large kicks, a lot of energy expended, and then by the end of the fights or towards the end of the fights, that expenditure starts to get less and less and less, and he becomes a little bit more open to getting attacked, a little bit more open to getting shots landed on him. What we've seen from Charles Jourdain is he does not get tired. It could be the 5th round, and that kid's going to Sparta kick you into next year. So, Lando,
kick so nasty.
That needs to be on his highlight reel forever.
Yes.
But I mean, Jourdain has either he knows how to efficiently manage his gas for the entirety of the fight, or he's just more efficient with it, or his cardio is just better. Either way, Lando needs to be on his P's and Q's when it comes to his efficiency in there and his cardio management, because if he's not, it doesn't matter. I don't think what happens in the first round if Charles Jourdain puts him out in the second or the third.
So where are you going?
I with all that shit, I like Lando, so I'm gonna go with Lando by I'll go with Lando by decision.
I did think about the gas issue as well, so we will see.
Yeah, I feel like it's happened so many times to Lando at this point that if he doesn't have it figured out, there's not really much we can do about it. But I would imagine, especially having to cut weight and kind of being more disciplined to get down there, that he's got that a bit more under control than he's had in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on down the line, or should I say up the line, we have... Oh, God. One of the hardest names I'll ever say. Madaerji, I believe, is his name. Where is he from? Is he from China?
Yes.
Yes. He's
Tibetan.
from China. That's right. He's Tibetan. The Tibetan Eagle is his nickname. Very nice.
Dope.
So Madaerji takes on the always impressive Manel Kape, a name that y'all should definitely know if you're watching and you don't know this name yet. Manel Kape, very impressive guy. He's fighting out of Angola, and he's just a rising star, I believe, in the flyweight division and the UFC. Omar, why don't you start this one up first? Manel Kape versus Madaerji. What's your take?
I don't know too much about Madaerji, but Manel Kape is a monster. I would imagine that he's got this weight business down at this point, right? He made it his last fight, so he was good in his last fight, but the one fight before then was pretty egregious of a weight cut as it gets. So I'm hoping he's got that part down, because if he does, man, Manel Kape, I think, is, brings something very new and fresh to the division in the way that he fights. Very effective, very explosive, very violent. If Madaerji doesn't have an answer for that kind of aggression early, we might see another highlight reel for Manel Kape.
Mark, what's your take? What's your pick?
So odds here, Madaerji is plus 160. Manel Kape is minus 190. There are certainly some checks in the corner of Madaerji in this one. He is 3 inches taller than Kape. He'll carry a 4-inch reach advantage. He controls distance well. He works some nice leg kicks. He's 3-1 in the UFC so far, 2-0 since dropping to flyweight. There's a way where he could get this done and kind of keep Kape at bay. But if you think I am picking against Manel Kape, then you have not been listening to this show.
That's right.
I love Manel's game. I think he's getting better every time we see him. It's southpaw versus southpaw here, but Manel is so light on his feet, switches stances so well that I actually think he makes that work in his favor. Yes, Sue is the longer fighter, but Manel is always really good at keeping guys off him, at not letting things land clean. And I think kind of that defensive responsibility is what will guide him in this fight. I think it'll be competitive, but I think Kape gives more than he gets over the course of 15 minutes. Sue has never been KO'd. Granted, there's a first time for everything, but I will hold off on that, and I will say Manel Kape UD.
Okay. All righty. Moving on down the line, gentlemen. Who we got next? We have Mayce, the future Barber, taking on Montana Monty De La Rosa. Man, real quick, ring announcer's dream name, Montana De La Rosa. All vowels, all consonant vowel, a dream to say. It's just going to roll off the tongue like a song. Montana De La Rosa getting her first name from her home state, of course, and married to former UFC fighter Mark De La Rosa. Taking on Mayce Barber, who recently has been in the win column. I believe her last win was against one Miranda Maverick. Am I correct?
Yep.
Mark, start us off. What's your take and your pick? Mayce Barber taking on Montana De La Rosa.
So Barber's the favorite here. She's minus 190. Montana comes back at a plus 155 dog. I think this is a really tough matchup for Montana De La Rosa. She's a bit bigger. 2 inches of height, 3 inches of reach, and maybe there's a world where she can manage to drag this fight down and just be heavy on top of Mayce, but I don't see it. I just don't think Montana has the right skills to beat a Mayce Barber or necessarily out-wrestle or out-grapple a Mayce Barber. That's not to say Mayce is some world beater, because she's not, but she's going to be stronger. She's faster. She hits harder. She's definitely the more well-rounded of the two. And I don't think Montana is the right type of wrestler to try to control someone who's explosive and natural of an athlete as Mayce Barber is. I just think Mayce's going to give her problems all fight. Montana's tough, so I'll say she sees the bell, but Mayce Barber UD, maybe even 30-27 UD.
Omar, care to share your take and your pick? Mayce Barber versus Montana De La Rosa.
I don't think I've ever quite been sold on Mayce Barber. I was, measured in the beginning when everybody was touting her as sort of the next big thing, and she was winning via TKO and stuff like that. But once you started putting her in there with with people with a little bit of a name, a little bit of shine, that dominance quickly went away. Montana De La Rosa is a worker. She is a fighter. For better or worse, whether she wins or she loses, she's always trying to work. Her last fight, I thought, was one of her more impressive fights. She was able to get that control and able to kind of have that finishing instinct and just rain down shit until they stopped her. To Mark's point, I don't know if she will be good enough to fight Mayce Barber or to be as dominant with Mayce Barber as she was against Lipski in her last fight. However, like I said, I'm not really totally sold on Mayce Barber. And to have a little bit of controversy here, I'm going to go with Montana De La Rosa by decision.
Very nice. All right, keeping things moving right along in the co-main event. I'm sorry, not the co-main event.
No, you're right.
But it is now. Oh, that's right.
Right, I think. Yeah.
In the lightweight division, Clay the Carpenter Guida, the ageless wonder, takes on Claudio Puelles. Am I saying his name right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Puelles.
Puelles, that's right. Another fight for Clay Guida. Yeah,
Mike, you're right. It looks like they put Romanov in the co-main now against Sherman, which makes no sense to me because whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Let's talk about it as if it is the people's co-main event. Another fight in the storied career of one Clay the Carpenter Guida. Mark, why don't you lead us off here?
So this one is pick'ems, even odds. It is a really interesting matchup. Claudio Puelles is a hard guy to get a read on simply because he has fought so infrequently in the UFC. He has only 5 fights in 6 years. But he did fight twice in 2021, and he did look very good in both of them, so maybe he's going to get going here. He's got tools everywhere the fight goes. He's a dangerous guy, especially with his jiu-jitsu. But as much as Clay Guida is 40 years old and not the same guy he once was, he's still a pretty big jump in competition from the guys that Puelles has been fighting thus far. Puelles is going to tower over him. He's 5 inches taller. He'll have a 2-inch reach, but I don't know if I think it's going to matter. Clay Guida is so good at fighting that grindy, pressure-based fight. And honestly, I think that's kind of exactly how you beat Claudio Puelles right now. What gives me a little pause is knowing how susceptible Clay can be to chokes. He has gotten choked out plenty of times in his career. I could see him winning the fight and then just making the wrong move and getting his neck wrapped up. But I will say, with some hesitation, that he avoids that mistake and that he takes it 2-1 on the cards.
Okay, Omar, care to share your take of Clay Guida's next fight in his long UFC career?
I like Claudio Puelles. I like his technique. I like his ability to work from the ground. Early in his UFC career, he's already got 2 knee bars. I mean, that's kind of beast. While he hasn't been fighting elite guys, he definitely has been fighting guys with a little bit of shine to them. As far as Chris Grutzmacher has been around for a minute. He was a tough alum. Not the most difficult guy as far as when you compare him up against the rest of the division, but definitely not an easy guy to get out there, especially with his style. But I really do like Puelles here. I think Clay Guida generally is a guy that can outwork somebody. But it's very hard pressed to find a Clay Guida fight that he doesn't want to take you down in. And I don't know if I have the confidence in Clay Guida to stay away from Puelles' ground game here. So I'm going to go with Puelles by submission, round 2.
On Clay Guida's Wikipedia page, under the personal life section, all it says is Clay is a fan of the Chicago Bears and Chicago Cubs, and he's also a diehard Grateful Dead fan, and he has attended the Grateful Dead 50th anniversary reunion show. What a random thing to be on somebody's Wikipedia page personal life section.
That's very random.
Okay, going on up now into the main event of this UFC Fight Night. It is Brazil versus Brazil. Jessica Andrade versus Amanda Lemos. Guys, this is a very exciting fight in the women's strawweight division, a fight of some real consequence. Omar, let me start with you. What is your take, and ultimately give us your pick for Lemos versus Andrade?
I mean, this shit is crazy. Lemos is number 10 right now in the division, and she is fighting the number 1 ranked fighter in the strawweight division right now. And the reality is I'm liable right now to pick Lemos. Lemos to me has been very impressive. The fight against Angela Hill was, regardless of whether you thought she won that fight or not, was still a scrap and still a very hard fought fight. And in her other fights before then, she's been relatively dominant in those. So Jessica Andrade is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination, but we do know that Jessica Andrade is vulnerable and has been hurt and can be stopped and has been dropped. Lemos, I think, has just as dangerous hands as anybody else in that top of that division, including Andrade. So I would assume Lemos has the reach advantage and the size advantage as far as height is concerned. Andrade is not very big, and I don't think it's ever been very big against anybody that she fights. I think I'm going to go with Lemos here, and I'm going to go with Lemos by TKO round 3.
Mark, this is
2 inches of height and 3 inches of reach to answer your question.
Yeah,
Okay.
There you go.
Staying with you, Mark, right here. Give us your take and ultimately your pick of Lemos versus Andrade.
So Andrade comes in as the favorite here, not surprisingly, with her resume. She is minus 190. Lemos comes back at plus 155. I love seeing Jessica Andrade back at 115. She immediately makes this division more interesting. The woman only loses to the elite of the elite. If we take away her little stretch at 135 in the beginning where she never should have been, and just look at her UFC tenure at 115 and 125, she is 9-4, and the 4 losses are Joanna, Weili, Rose, and Shevchenko. You can't get any more elite than that list. So if you're going to beat Jessica Andrade, you got to be damn good. Not to mention she's beaten Rose as well, plus beat girls like Chukagian, Tisha, Gedalia, and the list goes on. So Jessica Andrade has had a hell of a resume here. On the other side is Amanda Lemos, who had a lot of hype, but I think kind of got exposed by Angela Hill in her last fight. Yes, she had looked like a monster, but to look that way against non-ranked fighters is one thing, and to do it against top girls is another. And we now have her in there with Jessica Andrade, when I don't even think she beat Angela Hill. So it's a big step. Yes, against Hill, she came out hot in round 1. She looked dangerous, as she always does. But Hill survived that round, and then I think showed us that Amanda Lemos is not anywhere near as scary once you get past those initial 5 minutes. I thought Hill kind of picked her apart to win some close rounds. I thought she should have won that fight. Now, of course, Andrade is not really a fighter that's capable of the pick-you-apart approach, so it's not like she can replicate that, but I don't think that's the only avenue to beat Lemos. I think Andrade may have to endure a car crash in round 1, which makes picking this fight very hard because either girl could go down. Not to mention Andrade comes out hard in round 1 too, so round 1 might be absolute chaos. So simply because of that, it could go either way. If we get through round 1, I think this starts to turn toward Andrade, and if Angela Hill survived round 1, I think that Andrade can too. She just puts such a pace on you, and I'm not sure I trust Lemos' gas tank to be able to hang with Andrade all fight. It's a 5-round fight. First time she's going to have to do that. I think the wrestling of Andrade could become a factor as the fight goes on, both in that she gets takedowns and that the threat of those takedowns starts to open her striking up a bit. I think she's eventually going to get Lemos out of there. It may, as I said, start bad for Andrade, but I think it swings, and I will take her by round 4 TKO.
Wow. Round 4 TKO. Wow. I agree with almost everything you said, Mark, except for the pick. I'm going to say Andrade by unanimous decision. That's it. That is it for UFC Fight Night. Andrade versus Lemos for the preview. And now let us move back over, gentlemen, into the world of Bellator. So this weekend, Bellator MMA is putting on not one but 2 events on Friday night and Saturday night. That is Bellator 278, Velasquez versus Carmouche. And Saturday night, the very next night, Bellator 279, Cyborg versus Blencow 2. Am I saying that name right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Blencow.
Okay. Both events going down in the, what is it called? The NSB Arena in Honolulu, Hawaii. So a very fun time for the production crew over there at Bellator, soaking in some rays down in the 50th state in Hawaii.
Yeah, the nerve of Bellator. Like, I have nothing to do over here. I just got to prep for 2 freaking Bellator cards in the same weekend.
Absolutely. So let's start chronologically, of course. Friday night, Bellator 278. Any other fights before we're going to talk about the, let's say, top 3 fights of this card? Any other fights or fighters that you guys just want to spotlight for our listeners and viewers real quick?
I'll mention one fight quick, which is Christian Edwards versus Grant Neal. 2 light heavyweight prospects that Bellator still has high hopes for, despite each taking a loss recently. Edwards got flash KO'd in 30 seconds in his last fight by Ben Parrish as like a minus 1,000 favorite, which was nuts. Neal dropped a split verdict to Alex Polizzi. So now they're both going to try to get back on the horse here, and Bellator's kind of throwing them in there against each other. But it's a tough fight for both guys. I'm curious to see how it goes.
Okay, let's start. Bellator 278, Friday night in Hawaii. Real quick, let me pull it up here. 278, yes. In the bantamweight division, Jornel Lugo takes on Danny Sabatello. Mark, let me send it over to you first. What's your take and what's your pick?
So I'll just give you guys a little background quick. This is kind of part of the Bellator Bantamweight Grand Prix, with Sergio Pettis and James Gallagher both dropping out of the Bellator Bantamweight tournament. Bellator had 2 spots to fill, and rather than just giving them out, they decided to have 2 different qualifier fights to fill them, and that is what this one is, and that's what the next one is that we will discuss. And then the following night, the Saturday night of Bellator, the tournament starts in earnest with the real first-round fights. So the matchups of the tournament now are Archuleta and Stotts, which will be on Saturday, Horiguchi and Mix, which will be on Saturday, Leandro Higo against the winner of this fight that we're about to discuss, and Magomed Magomedov against the winner of the next one we're going to discuss. So just for clarity's sake, a lot of moving parts here. But in this one, which is the qualifier to fight Leandro Higo, we have Jornel Lugo and Danny Sabatello, which is a fantastic fight. Both of these guys have looked really good. Lugo is the dog. He's plus 230. Sabatello is minus 300, which might be a little large. I'll do Lugo first. He's 4-0 in Bellator. He's 8-0 overall. His quality of competition, while not incredible as of yet, has been steadily increasing. Granted, this may be a big jump, but he can do it all, man. He switches stances really easily. His jab is a weapon. It's quick and powerful. He's a slick grappler. And then on the other side, you have Danny Sabatello, the Italian gangster, who has looked legitimately unstoppable when it comes to his wrestling. And he knows it, too. He talks a lot of shit for a guy who's just coming in there looking to wrestle you and not necessarily finish you, but he knows how good he is. This is a guy who's 11-1. His one loss is to Erwin Rivera in a tough fight where he got finished in the 4th round. Rivera's not a huge name, but he did have a run in the UFC. He's a credible guy. Not long after that, it looked like Sabatello may end up in the UFC as well. He got a win on Contender Series, but he was not given a contract. So he just kept winning. He beat Damon Blackshear for the Titan FC title and then debuted in Bellator where he beat Brett Johns. And that's a big point for me in picking this fight because I do rate Brett Johns. He is 18-3 in his career, Brett Johns. He's beaten plenty of solid fighters. The guys that have beaten him are Aljamain Sterling, Pedro Munoz, and Danny Sabatello. So that's pretty good company for Sabatello to find himself in. As I said, I do like Jornel Lugo, and I'm not writing him off in this fight. I actually kind of think at those odds he's a little interesting, but I think his well-roundedness is going to be less of a factor than it normally is because I don't think he's going to win on the mat against Sabatello, so he's going to have to try to keep this thing standing, and I'm sure at times he can. He may even have like one good round in there, but I just don't see him being able to keep Sabatello off him as much as he'll need to. The guy is relentless, and if Brett Johns couldn't stop him or get up from under him, then I don't think it's going to be too different for Lugo. So I will say Danny Sabatello by unanimous decision.
Omar, give us your take and ultimately your pick of this fight.
Yeah, well, there's no way that I'm going to top that analysis, so I'm not going to. What I will say is that I will also be going with Danny Sabatello, and actually for the same reason, because he beat Brett Johns. I don't really know most of these guys as well as I know a lot of the guys in the UFC lineups. I'm not exposed to them as much as I am to the guy in the UFC lineup, so a lot of times I do have to kind of compare them with their level of competition that they've had and kind of how they've taken care of it. So with that in mind, Danny Sabatello to me is a little bit more impressive. Both of these guys have fantastic records, but just seems to me like Danny Sabatello has the tools to win this fight against Lugo.
Okay. Moving on down the line. Bellator 278 going down in Hawaii. Enrique Barzola taking on Nikita Mikhailov in the bantamweight division. Omar, why don't you start us off?
Oh, let's go with Mark for these. Mark Scott's fucking fire
on
for this card, man. Bellator's doing too much, and he's just living up to the hype. So go for it, Mark.
All right, so this is the other qualifier. As I mentioned, the winner here will fight Magomed Magomedov. This was supposed to be Barzola versus Josh Hill, which would have been a great matchup, but Hill had to drop out of the fight. Mikhailov steps in on short notice. He is a small dog, plus 125. Barzola is minus 155. Mikhailov is 8-1. He's 2-0 in Bellator. We haven't seen a ton of him. He fights out of Stary Oskol, of course, the home of the heavyweight GOAT. He's a strong wrestler. He has some nasty ground and pound that I'm sure he'll be looking to employ. Across the cage, you have the former TUF LATAM 2 winner in Enrique Barzola. And he's where I'm going to go in this fight, and I'll tell you why. I think we may be learning that Barzola is a criminally underrated fighter. The guy went 6-3 in the UFC, and it was kind of a quiet 6-3-1. Kind of a quiet 6-3-1. Really, it should have been 7-2-1 because there is no chance he lost to Kyle Bochniak. That will always stick in my head as one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. So 2 losses in 10 fights. One was to Kevin Aguilar, which maybe doesn't look great. The other was to Movsar Evloev, who's still undefeated, who is one of the fastest rising prospects there is, and who Barzola took a round off and fought to a close decision. And then, say what you will about Darian Caldwell, but to come into Bellator after 2 years off and finish Darian Caldwell says a lot to me. So I'm starting to open my eyes to the skills of Enrique Barzola here. He has faced plenty of good grapplers, Caldwell, Yaya, Evloev, the list goes on, and he has hung with them. So I think he'll be able to keep any wrestling and grappling competitive here with Mikhailov, and I think it will be his ability to mix it up and to keep a pace on his opponent that's going to be the difference here. So I will take him to win by decision.
Omar, you got a pick for us?
I do. I would also go with Barzola by decision. The Ronnie Yaya draw, I think, was... If you can last with Ronnie Yaya, you must be pretty goddamn good, because Ronnie Yaya is no joke. That dude is liable to mess somebody up, whether it's on the hands or on the ground. So, yeah, I'll go with Barzola by decision.
Mark, set the stage for us for this main event of Bellator 278's Juliana Velasquez versus Liz Carmouche.
All right. Velasquez is the favorite here at minus 190. Carmouche is plus 150 as the underdog. It's pretty awesome seeing Liz Carmouche, one half of the first women's fight in UFC history, getting a Bellator title shot at 38 years old in the year 2022. With that said, it's not like Juliana Velasquez is some young prospect. She's 35 herself, granted with a lot less wear and tear than Liz. But Liz hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Her losses are all to girls who have been at the top of the game. She's already 3-0 in Bellator since making the jump. She has 2 finishes in those 3 wins. And Juliana, on the other hand, is undefeated. She took the belt off Alamale McFarland pretty handily on most people's cards. But I do think she's had her share of very close fights, including her first defense against Denise Kielholtz was a tough one to score. And for an undefeated fighter, I don't know what it is, but she doesn't necessarily like jump off the page to me. I don't have a ton of confidence in her. And frankly, I might be surprised to see Carmouche as the underdog here. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that much, but I thought this might be like a pick'em. I don't know. I'm a little surprised by the minus 190 for Velasquez. Maybe I'm off on my read of her, but I think Liz is stronger. I think she throws with more volume. She can wrestle with anyone, historically speaking. Velasquez's jits is dangerous, but Liz is good down there herself. She never rushes. She never gets reckless. She always sticks to her game plan. And I think she can stay safe enough in these grappling exchanges and win the fight on the feet kind of by mixing it up in a way. It's not like she's some dominant striker because she's not. So her getting outstruck is a possibility as well. But I just think her pace, her intelligence, her ability to mix it up, to clinch against the fence if she needs to work in a takedown if she needs to, I think she can keep Velasquez guessing in there and outpoint her to take this fight. So I'm going to go with Liz Carmouche to pull the upset in a 48-47 UD and become the new Bellator 125-pound champ.
Omar, give us your pick and your take.
So, Liz Carmouche has been around for a while. We've obviously seen her rise through the UFC, even coming out of Invicta and kind of being, the whole reason she was picked against Ronda Rousey in the first place was because of kind of her status in the MMA, in the women's MMA world at that point. she had her ups and her downs in the UFC, but you got to imagine the UFC's competition is relatively elite. If there's any black mark on her record, it'd probably be the 2 losses to Alexis Davis, especially in hindsight, I guess, at this point. But realistically, she's turned away a lot of solid fighters. She's lost to a lot of elite fighters. The fighters that she's fought at Bellator, I don't think carry the same type of weight as a lot of the people that she's fought, whether she's won or lost in the UFC too. And I think that goes the same for Juliana Velasquez as well. I think stylistically, I think Carmouche has a very interesting style to match up against Velasquez because she's so skilled on the ground. She's not an idiot. Like, she's not going to get... I don't think she's going to get caught on the ground based on the experience that she's had in the past. I would imagine her striking has gotten a lot more comprehensive with how her style works, and it's not... whenever we see people kind of start their MMA careers or kind of in the middle of it, there's still a moment where they're trying to get comfortable with how their style is supposed to work for them. And I think Carmouche has kind of gotten into that rhythm, especially since being in Bellator. I expect Liz Carmouche to be able to take control of this fight and do some work on Velasquez. I'm going to go with submission round 2.
I'm going to roll with the very well-rounded and undefeated Bellator champ. I'm going to say that Juliana Velasquez gets it done and stays undefeated and retains her Bellator title.
Someone had to.
Yeah, right? All righty. Let us now move on finally to the Saturday night Bellator card. 2 of 2, Bellator 279, Cyborg versus Blencow 2. It's going to take place once again Saturday night, April 23rd at the NSB Arena in Honolulu, Hawaii. Just as we did with the Friday night card for Bellator, we're going to talk about the top 3 fights of this card. Before we get to any of those guys, is there any other fights or fighters that you want to highlight for our listeners and fans?
I'll tell you 2 quick ones. There's actually a few. This card is a lot better than the Friday night card in terms of depth. Yeah. But one I'll highlight is Emmanuel Sanchez versus Yancy Medeiros. This is just a fun one. You've got Emmanuel Sanchez, who we always like on here, jumping up to lightweight to welcome Yancy Medeiros to Bellator. Obviously, Medeiros is Hawaiian, so he'll have huge crowd support here. They will likely put on a banger. And then the other one I'll highlight is Alamale McFarland, the former champ. It's always fun watching her fight in Hawaii. She's fighting Justine Kish, where if she wins, she may earn herself another shot against the winner of the prior night's main event.
Alrighty. Let us begin. The first of 3 fights that we're going to preview, Kyoji Horiguchi taking on Patchy Mix. Mark, set the table for us for this one.
All right, so now we are into the Bellator Grand Prix in earnest. This is a true first-round matchup. Horiguchi is the favorite, minus 290. Patchy Mix is plus 210 dog. It will be 5 rounds. All of these Bellator Grand Prix fights, once we're into that official first round, are going to be 5 rounds, which is interesting. The size difference here is going to look wild as we get the 5'11 Patchy Mix across from the 5'5 Kyoji Horiguchi. Patchy will also have a 6.5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant. Patchy Mix is 15-1 overall. His only loss was to fellow tournament participant Juan Archuleta. He's won 2 straight since then. He most recently out-grappled James Gallagher and eventually choked him out. I already have waxed poetic on the history of his opponent, Kyoji Horiguchi, back when he fought Pettis on this show, so I'll skip that here. But Pettis loss or no Pettis loss, this is a guy who is absolutely still one of the best bantamweights on the planet and who I'm sure will be coming into this one with a ton of determination after basically dominating Sergio for 3.5 rounds before getting caught and put out in his last fight. The story in this fight is going to be very simple. It's, can Patchy Mix take down, control, and out-grapple a guy as good as Kyoji Horiguchi? And if he can't, he's going to be in for a very long or potentially very short night. And I don't think he can. Kyoji is very comfortable on the ground himself. He knows that Patchy can only win this fight one way. Patchy has nothing to offer Kyoji on the feet, despite the length advantage. Kyoji will be faster. He's more powerful. And I just don't think he's a guy that can be beat by a ground specialist. I think he's plenty skilled there and will eventually make Patchy Mix pay. If it was 3 rounds, maybe I'd say Mix could survive, but I don't think he makes it the whole 5. I don't trust Mix's cardio for the whole 5. I certainly trust Kyoji's. I will say we get a late finish, maybe toward the end of round 4, Kyoji Horiguchi by TKO.
Omar, hit us with your take and your pick for Horiguchi versus Mix.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, to be honest. Horiguchi is a monster, man. I've loved Horiguchi since he was in the UFC. Even against his loss against Demetrius Johnson, it was a hard-fought fight. That was also the last time he got submitted. And getting submitted by Demetrius Johnson, it happens. Ask most people. It happens. As far as the hands are concerned, Horiguchi definitely has the advantage in the hands. He also has the advantage, I think, in the distance management as well. He's very good at being able to bounce in and out, manage his range properly. He's always been a springy fighter, whereas Patchy Mix kind of has more of a, I guess if you want to call it anything, more of like a straight-up, stand-up Muay Thai stance. So there isn't a lot of covering distance very quickly, the same way that Horiguchi does. His is more of a, I guess, a karate stance in that sense. I also don't think that he'll be able to get controlled on the ground to that extent, at least not early on. It's very possible that, later on in the fight, there might be an opportunity, but this is also not 5 rounds. This is a 3-round fight.
No, it is 5 rounds.
This is 5 rounds? How many fights are 5 rounds on this fight, on this card?
All 3 that we're about to talk about.
Holy cheese.
Yeah, the whole Bellator Grand Prix is 5 rounds. You guys missed me saying that just now, huh?
I must have. Okay, all right. Well, then I stand by the statement that he could definitely get caught later on in the fight. However, Horiguchi does have solid hips. So it's very difficult to just control him on the ground or even successfully get a takedown off of Horiguchi. He's very good at being able to get back up even when you're able to get him down on the ground. So I think Patchy Mix has a tall order in set for him. And I think Horiguchi ends up winning this fight. I don't think he's able to finish Mix, but I do think he's able to nullify a lot of the work that he's going to want to do that night. So I'm going to go with Horiguchi by decision.
I also like Horiguchi, but I'm going to go Horiguchi by knockout in round number 3.
I like it.
Props to Bellator for keeping things fresh, man. 5 rounds, all fights in the tournament. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I too did not realize that. And yes, Mark, I missed you saying that. Okay, let's hop up now into the bantamweight division as well in the co-main event of Bellator 279. This fight, I am pretty excited about. Juan Archuleta taking on Raufeon Stots. Quick recap, or rather up to speed here. Archuleta, the American nickname is the Spaniard. Very impressive record, 25-3. At one point, he went on like a 16-fight winning streak. He is 7-2 in Bellator, but he is coming off of a loss against Sergio Pettis back at Bellator 258 back in May of 2021. Raufeon Stots, he is the 5'7" American fighting out of Houston, Texas. Nickname is Super. Also very impressive record, 17-1. He also is undefeated in Bellator, might I add, as well as he was undefeated at LFA. So, guys, this is a highly anticipated bout heading into Bellator 279. Omar, why don't you start us off?
I personally love this fight. To me, this is my main event, personally. I know Chris Cyborg's the champion. I know she's got a name. I know people are going to pay for that fight and all this other stuff because they want to see Cyborg murder somebody else. I get it. I respect it. This, to me, is the main event. This is what I'm here for. Archuleta versus Stots is such a fantastic fight. Stylistic. I mean, Archuleta is arguably one of the more exciting fighters that is on the Bellator roster, especially when you talk about the elite guys that are in this company. And Raufeon Stots is also in that same company. His wrestling is elite as he gets, especially here in Bellator. And the fight is very, very interesting. I believe this is a result of Pettis having been out, right? Having his leg injury recently.
Yep, it was supposed to be Stots and Pettis.
So it's Pettis had just beat Archuleta, and so Archuleta now is basically getting another shot, I believe, at the interim belt, right? They'll be fighting for an interim belt for this specific fight.
Yep. Yep, correct.
So there's a lot on the line here. There's a lot of, I think, pressure on Archuleta to kind of get it done and sort of recapture what he might have missed last year. But he's got a tall order in Raufeon Stots, man. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to stop Raufeon from doing whatever he wants to do with you. He's going to be very, very aggressive, going to be pushing forward, and he's going to be looking for that shot. And unlike the way I think we talked about Horiguchi when it came to his ability to not be on the ground, I don't have that same confidence in Archuleta to stay off of the ground consistently for 5 rounds. And I do have confidence that Stots will be able to keep that game plan going and the pace going for 5 rounds. So I'm going to go Raufeon Stots by decision, if not TKO.
All right, Mark, give us your take and your pick.
I was confirming my all fights being 5 rounds thing. I got nervous for a second, but it is. So the favorite here is Raufeon Stots, a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be, minus 265. Juan Archuleta is plus 200. I thought these odds would be pretty close. Another Grand Prix quarterfinal here. Same as Omar. For me, this is the main event of the night, especially because there's not a ton to say about Cyborg, so I will focus on this one. Raufeon was the man they had chosen to get the first title shot against Sergio Pettis to kick off this tournament, as we just touched on. Unfortunately for him, Pettis got hurt. Granted, they're teammates, so it did seem like Stots was a bit relieved as well. I personally didn't think they needed to make an interim belt here. Just do the tournament and let the winner fight Sergio, but I guess they really like the idea of a belt traveling through the tournament, so this is the matchup they've chosen to create this interim belt, and the man stepping in across from the 17-1 Raufeon Stots will be 25-3 Juan Archuleta. A really high-quality matchup here. As our longtime listeners know, I've been a huge Raufeon Stots guy. I bet him to beat Magomedov at like plus 400 or whatever he was at the time in his last one. I called him my dark horse in this Grand Prix, but it seems that the world has now caught on because he was given the fight with Pettis, and he is a 265 favorite to win this fight. So I guess Stots has really arrived on the national conscious now. He is an undefeated fighter outside of a flash KO at the hands of Merab Dwalishvili, who's obviously very high level in his own right. The guy just goes, man. He does not stop. He has great cardio. He's so composed at all times. His wrestling is top shelf, but he can take the fight anywhere. It's wild to me that he's already 33. It feels like he should be a younger prospect. But this may end up being the fight where he breaks through here. But he's going to have to earn it because you don't really beat Juan Archuleta unless you're elite. As I said, he's 25-3. He's 7-2 in Bellator, but the only 2 men to beat him are the 2 champs, Patricio Pitbull and Sergio Pettis. On the feet, I absolutely think Archuleta could cause Stots problems. He's a dangerous counter-striker. He'll also turn it up and walk you down at times. He's the naturally bigger guy. As I said, he fights at featherweight sometimes. I think even more often than not in Bellator, he's fought at featherweight. I could see him come out hot in this one, but I think about Rufus Sport having just recently game planned against him for the Sergio fight. I'm sure that's an advantage for them here. And I think that Stots is just capable of making those adjustments because he's so well-rounded. He's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage on Archuleta, which I think he can use to kind of keep Archuleta at bay at times until he gets his timing down. And then I think the grappling is where this fight's going to swing. Archuleta's tough as hell, so I don't think Stots will get him out of there. But if Stots can out-wrestle Magomedov, I don't see any reason to think he can't do the same to Juan Archuleta. And I think that's what we see for at least the last 3 rounds of this fight, if not the last 4. Like I said, maybe round 1 is a little tough for Stots, but I think he really takes over and the wrestling shines. I will say it's a UD for him and that he is the new interim bantamweight champion.
Okay. I like it. Let's see.
Dude, I just watched because when you said he lost it to Merab, I was like, really? So I looked at his record. It's a 15-second first-round loss via spinning back fist.
Yep, back fist.
I just looked it up.
I watched it too.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
He just got caught. That wasn't even a fight. It was 2 strikes for the entire fight. Poor kid. That's a sucky way to lose. Sorry, Mike. I had to throw it out there.
No, it's all good. And just to piggyback off that, I'm going to go with the virtually undefeated fighter. Well, technically, defeated, but you know what I mean. Rafael Stotts, I'm going to go with him by unanimous decision, getting it done over Juan Archuleta. I think his activity and his tenacity is going to earn him more points ultimately across the 5 rounds, and we're going to see him walk away with the W. With that being said, gentlemen, let's move it right along to the main event of Bellator 279 going down in Honolulu, Hawaii. The legend, Chris Cyborg, defending her Bellator Women's Featherweight Championship against Arlene Blencow from Australia. Blencow, the challenger, like I said, the Australian. She's 39 years old. After a 4-4 boxing record, she turned to mixed martial arts. She now has a record of 15-8. She and Cyborg fought once before at Bellator 249 back in October of 2020. And Cyborg submitted Blencow by submission via rear naked choke. Since then, Blencow has gone on to win 2 straight, and she's back to challenge Cyborg once again. Chris Cyborg really needing no introduction. From Brazil, fighting out of Curitiba. She's from Curitiba, and now she fights out of San Diego, California. As a pro, she has an outstanding record of 25 wins and just 2 defeats with 1 no contest. And she is riding a 5-fight win streak into this title defense, and she is undefeated in her last 4 fights, undefeated in Bellator. That being said, Mark, let me start with you here. Give us your take, set the stage, and give us your pick for Cyborg versus Blencow 2.
What is there to say about this fight? Chris Cyborg is minus 1,000. Blencow is plus 600. Obviously, these girls just fought about a year and a half ago, which ended with Blencow tapping to a rear naked choke. But I guess this is what happens when it falls apart with Kat Zingano and falls apart with Kayla Harrison. And then you make a rematch that makes no sense. So we don't need to say a lot here. In fact, we may not need to say anything else at all. Cyborg will win. She'll win however she wants. This time I think it's a KO. I will say second round, and that'll be that.
I'm going lightning for this main event.
Yeah.
Omar, your turn. Give us your take. Give us your pick.
I mean, this has kind of been the story with Cyborg. Is like there's not really there's no matchups outside of what we had in the UFC, and outside of fighters that we wanted to see her fight in the UFC that are now in Bellator that are going to intrigue us, that are really going to make us think that Cyborg has a chance of losing. You know, Blencow has every opportunity, I'm sure, to catch Cyborg in something and do something to Cyborg, but the chances are she probably won't. I have no reason to think that she will. She's been beat up once before by her. Chances are she will be beat up again by her. I say this full well knowing that Arlene is, you know, Blencow has fought a good amount of people. She has experience. She has, you know, the will and the tenacity to be in there. But I don't see her on any level that Chris Cyborg is on. I don't. We're on 2 different books at this point. Yeah. I understand that's where the division is, and that is what it is. You know, that's fine. I'll watch it. But there's not really much that we can really do off of this fight. This is Chris Cyborg's world until somebody else with some interest comes into play. Chris Cyborg by however the hell she wants, like Mark said.
I'm going to go Cyborg TKO round 1.
And no one here could dispute that.
Anything else you guys want to say about Cyborg, this Bellator card, or either or both Bellator cards from this coming weekend?
I just want to let the people at the UFC who are obviously listening to this podcast know that any more excuses about why you can't bring an event to Hawaii is total and utter bullshit. So figure it out. Thank you.
All right, boys. Well, we've made it to the end of the show. And if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for making it this far. And we like to end the show with a little bit of MMA trivia, in which I try my hardest to craft a question that will hit that sweet spot for the 2 MMA purists that join me on this show, being Mark and Omar. All right, here we go. I only have 1 question for you guys, but I actually think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a good one in terms of how I craft and how I word this question. Okay, here we go. Patricio Pitbull regained his Bellator featherweight title this past weekend, defeating AJ McKee. And of course, Patricio Pitbull is arguably the more famous of the Pitbull brothers. The other being,
I think that's fair.
The other being Patricky Pitbull, both also under the Bellator banner. I have selected 3 other pairs of MMA brothers: the Diaz brothers, the Nogueira brothers, and the Shamrock brothers.
Oh.
I was waiting for the Pettis.
Me too.
Yeah, I was waiting for the Pettis.
I should have done the Pettis. Shit, I knew I was going to forget somebody. But out of these 3, let's stay with these 3.
All right.
I'm going to say the combined records of these 3 pairs of brothers. And I want you guys...
Full pro records.
Full pro records. I also, disclaimer, I excluded any draws and no contests, so this is just wins and losses.
Okay.
So the combined wins and loss records of the Diaz brothers, Nogueira brothers, and Shamrock brothers. Can you guess?
The Pitbull brothers are not in this.
No.
Okay.
I guess I should have done them too, since I led the question off with them. But oh well, next time. Okay, here we go. The records are 57-20, 51-27, and 46-23.
Hold on, I gotta write these down. Say those numbers.
Yeah. Go ahead, take out a little note card. All right, 57-20, 51-27, and 46-23.
Okay, so we have the Shamrock brothers, the Diaz brothers, and who was the third one?
The Nogueiras.
The Nogueiras.
Man, they're this is hard. It's hard. I gotta guess at one of them.
I wanna say 51-27 are the Diaz brothers. That's where my heart's leading me to.
See, two of these records are almost the same kind of a record, and one is significantly better, being the 57-20.
Okay, the 50. Go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to share the what the win percentages are for the 3 records.
Go for it.
Okay, so 57-20 is a win percentage of 74%. The second record I read, 51-27, is a 65% win percentage, and 46-23 is a 67% win percentage.
Yeah, so one is significantly better, and I could be wrong, but I feel like the significantly better one is the Nogueiras.
That's what I was thinking too. The 57-20 is the Nogueiras,
mainly because of Big Nog.
And I think the Shamrock brothers
are the slouch.
Shamrocks, I think, were 46-23.
I'm torn on the others.
But Ken Shamrock had a lot of wins early on in his career.
I mean, those records are basically the same. Like this is a shot in the dark. It's just that one is more. One has 9 more fights than the other, pretty much. 51-27 versus 46-23.
Give me a final answer.
I'm trying to think how many fights Nick and Nate have, but it's hard to.
Yeah.
I'll say the 46 is the Diaz's, the 51 is the Shamrocks, and the 57 is the Nogs.
Omar?
Yeah. I'm going to do 57 Nogs. I'm going to do 51 Diaz brothers and 46 Shamrock.
One of us got it, I think.
Yeah. I hope.
Unless we're dead wrong about the Nogueiras.
One of you got it exactly right. And that person is Mark Priaulx.
God damn it.
Okay, so Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, a.k.a. Lil Nog, his record was 23-10. Almost identical. The exact same record as Frank Shamrock. And almost identical to Nathan Diaz, whose record was 20-13. Nick Diaz's record was 26-10. So all of those guys, very close records, actually. Big Nog, Mark, you hit the nail on the head. You guessed it right. He kind of edged everybody out on this list with a record of 34-10.
Yeah.
So like 10 extra wins for Big Nog.
Yeah.
And he gave the Nogueira brothers the edge in that category. And then, the Diaz brothers and Shamrock brothers, very, very, very close overall. The Diaz is 46-23, Shamrock's 51-27. I also thought to include the
what was Ken's record? You didn't say Ken's record.
28-17.
What was it?
28-17.
Okay.
I also thought to include the Shevchenko sisters, but Antonina's record is such a small record at only 9-4. I felt like that would have been a giveaway.
Yes.
So I knew I was probably leaving out somebody out there, a pair, and it was the fucking Pettises.
I want to look now. Let's see. Anthony Pettis.
The Dawkinses are other brothers you could
have.
as well.
The Dawkinses, of course.
Pettis.
There's probably one or two others.
Pettis 24-12, so very similar. That's Anthony. Sorry. Sergio's 22-5.
Wow.
That would have been 40. What did I just say for Anthony? 24-12? Is that what I said?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, 24-12. So that would have been 46-17. Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would have got that.
That would have been tough. Yeah. Doesn't Gilbert Burns have a brother?
Yes.
In the UFC?
Yeah, right? That is his brother, right?
Or
and
has fought in the UFC?
Relative? Herbert, right? Isn't that his name?
Herbert Burns, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Now I got to look if he's definitely the brother.
Notable.
Yeah, younger brother. Yep.
There's
been plenty of others.
Same thing, though, as the Shevchenkos. Herbert's record is only 11-3.
Yeah, too small, yeah.
Interesting.
The Camozzi brothers come to mind.
Chris has a brother?
Yeah, Brian Camozzi.
I did not know that.
He fought in the UFC.
Oh, shit.
There's definitely more. God, I'm trying to rack my brain.
For sure.
I can't think. But yeah, Dawkins one was a good pull.
Jesus, he didn't fight. He didn't win one fight in the UFC though.
No.
And then he just.
I knew he wasn't good.
Fuck.
All right, boys, that was a fun one.
Yeah.
Real quick, the rumors now are that Marvin Vettori, now that Robert Whittaker is out, is looking to fight Darren Till or Khamzat Chimaev. He's probably.
Oh my god, dude.
Dude, he's liable to get Darren Till though. That's not a bad call out considering Darren Till has been training this whole time. It's not like he couldn't make it.
Hold on, back up. Who wants to fight? Is it Vettori wants to fight Chimaev?
Vettori is calling out either Darren Till or Chimaev, one of the Smish brothers.
Dude, Vettori versus Chimaev would be insane.
Dude, Vettori versus Till would be a great fight for Darren Till to come back on.
I know, but God, it's like he's just gonna lose again. I mean, like, can we let Darren Till beat somebody first?
No, dude, Vettori versus Chimaev at middleweight is the classic case to me of the unstoppable force against the immovable object.
That is a big ask for Chimaev. Like,
he wouldn't have to cut weight.
The best middleweight he beat is Gerald Mearshart. Like, who I like, but like since then he's beating welterweights. Fighting Marvin Vettori is a lot different.
I mean, you're not wrong. Definitely not wrong.
Man, all right, gentlemen, let us bring this one to a close. Thanking our audience one last time for joining us. One last time, guys, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. If you like what you're seeing, leave us a comment with any of your own hot takes and or questions that you'd like us to answer. You can also, of course, drop us a question in the DMs on Instagram or Twitter. Find us on all social media platforms at the handle @&new_MMA show. And, of course, find us wherever you get your podcasts. That being said, gentlemen, fun one. any parting shots?
Thank you, audience. Love you guys.
Big night of MMA. Make sure you catch it all. I might actually get my Showtime this weekend because it's a lot of MMA to miss. So.
Yeah, man. All right, folks. Enjoy the fights, and we will see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.